There we go. All right, so we live. Uh, all those who will be jumping on either on the Facebook app or on the YouTube channel, just bear with us for a second. I'm going to be, y'all know what I do. I do some tagging or whatnot. Welcome to the Real Talk Podcast.
All right, so I'm just gonna start with some like random questions, kind of like get to know you stuff. So, what's the best thing that's happened to you this week?
The best thing that happened to me this week, I so I was telling Jesse I'm moving this week. So I'm moving because right now I stay a little bit north of Los Angeles and Lancaster, California. So today I got all my stuff packed up and well, most
Okay.
of it anyway. So I'm gonna have movers come and I hate moving. It's a lot of work, and so it's just like if I could stay in one place and not have to move all around. But sometimes you
Oh,
just got to do what you got to
yeah.
do.
That's a
Right.
But yeah,
fact.
other than that, yep.
I'll be honest. I don't think I know anybody who actually enjoys moving, so you're in good company.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Like at
And
this point, like at
what's
our
fun?
age, we have gotten to the point where, go ahead.
Yeah, what's going like, yeah. But it's funny because friends sometimes ask you to move and like they'll order a pizza and some soda. Like, I'm starting to get up there now. I need more than a pizza and soda. I'm gonna need something green, some Benjamins, because it's too much work.
I know
Pizza
that's
and a
right.
soda ain't cutting it. Not
Right.
anymore. Back
Way
in my
too much work.
20s it was, but not anymore.
You
Right.
do you doing better than I was because I sure wasn't taking it in my 20s. I need money. I don't need food. I can get food at home. If I wanted pizza, I could have had
Right,
pizza at my house and not have it exhibited to work. I need money.
right. And the pizza's the end,
But
so by
that's
the
so
time
funny because there was some people moving our apartment complex. Oops, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm trying
Oh
to
no, it's okay.
get.
So there's a delay between us and him for some reason. No
Okay.
clue why. So it'll be all right. We're probably gonna step on each other's toes a lot this podcast, but sorry, we'll be all right.
Okay.
it's that T-Mobile internet y'all
But no,
got.
I was saying that guy that was moving into our.
Don't talk bad about it because so far it's going okay. If we start cutting out and whatnot, it's because you jinxed us.
But yeah, like that guy that was moving into our apartment complex yesterday with the mattress, and at some point, even your young body will be like, "We ain't got this to do."
I know it's right. Listen, I wish I knew the size of the mattress before I agreed to it. Otherwise, he'd had to pay me more than 20. 'Cause that mattress is heavy, and I am absolutely no spring chicken. I didn't need that much agreement. We did not need you to agree that much.
I'm sorry. Look, hey, look. At some point, you gotta get somebody else to do it. That's me right
Right, and
there.
then and then as you guys already know, I served with Eddie, so military, they move around a lot. So it was always, hey, can you help me move? Can you help me move? Not anymore. I can't do it. Better pay somebody or pay
I know
me.
that's right.
Right.
And the amount that you're going to have to pay me is going to go up. But every year I go up, the amount yesterday's price is not today's price.
Exactly. Rise with inflation. What was it?
Right.
What, go in a grocery store. What was that in grocery store? Change every day. I'm gonna need that price to change as well.
That's right.
Right.
Okay. I think we're good. You tag everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So I tagged you in the link as well. So if there's anybody you want to tag in, Eric, you're free to do so.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna go ahead and get us started. This is wait, hold on. Now see, as soon as I said I'm gonna get us started, something stupid happened. Okay, let's try that again. I'm
Take
gonna go
two.
ahead and get us started.
Take two.
So without further ado, this is the Real Talk Podcast.
This is Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk. This is Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk.
All right. Welcome to yet another edition of the Real Talk Podcast. I, as always, am your host, Jesse Jones, along with my beautiful, my vivacious. She's back and looking in good health and everything, and with her little Fenty zip up on. She is.
Play with me. I could be an older influencer. It's a thing.
She is the one and only, the queen, Miss Philonda. Say hi to the people.
Hi, family.
And today we have a very special guest on deck today. He told me just to call him Eric, but y'all know me. Y'all know I am not about to just have a guest on here and they get to just be their name. He is an outstanding individual. I promise you, he is loads of fun. Anybody who's been a viewer of the Real Talk Podcast, especially since we've been going live, knows he is tons of fun. He participates. He is a commenter, and he's got a wonderful, heartbreaking, but very true to life story. There's a lot that's going on with this young man. He has served our country faithfully in the military as well. He is the one and only. I hope I don't mess up his last name. I've been saying I'm gonna mess it up all day long.
Here it comes.
Like I ain't gonna do it, but I promise you now I'm gonna get tongue tied. But he is the one and only, Mr. Eric Spade. Say hi to the folks, sir.
Hey everyone, thank you for everyone who's joining, and I thank you for Jesse and Philonda for having me on the show. And I, like I said, I watch you guys all the time, so I'm really excited to be on the show and talk about real issues. And oh, by the way, you did say my last name right.
Absolutely excited to have you. Yeah,
Nailed it.
It's eight. It's 8 with an SP on it, so that's it. Just Spate.
That's what I thought. I was like, here's how I got to pronounce it that way. I was like, well, my wife's name is Yolanda, but with an F. So let me just go with what it looks like, and then put the stuff I'm not familiar with in front of it, and see if that works. If not, I'll just go ahead and be wrong. But I'm glad I was right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we get ready to kick this thing off. You're gonna have to pardon the delay. We're finding that there is a delay between us and him. So just bear with us as we work through that. It's nothing we can do. It's just the way the system is working today. So if there's a delay, We might step on each other's toes every so often, but it's part of the delay. But we got this. Now, before we get into our topics and all of our stuff, let me put this disclaimer out here. The subject matter we're going to be dealing with today, it can be possibly triggering for some people. And so if it triggers you, it's not our intention on one side or the other to trigger you. Just deal with your trigger. Or you can not listen to this podcast today. I get it. Mm-hmm. Same token, the topic that we're going to be dealing with today is also quite controversial on both sides. There are strong feelings on both sides of the equation. We at the Real Talk Podcast, in particular myself, let me go, since I own the Real Talk Podcast, it's not just we at the Real Talk Podcast. Jesse Jones, as a man and as a man of God, will not tolerate any abusive language, any trash, any kind of stuff. If I feel like your comments are out of pocket or out of line, here's what's gonna happen. First, I'm gonna delete your comment, so ain't nobody gonna see that mess. Mm-hmm. Second, you're gonna get banned. Mm-hmm. And right after I ban you, I'm going to talk about you for about a good 5 minutes. You ain't going to be able to retort. So I hope all your profile pictures are up to date and everything.
Ooh, ride you like a
I hope that, I really hope y'all are on your best behavior. But if you ain't, I hope all your stuff is, or hope all your profile pictures look good, all your posts are good, because me and my wife, we good at doing deep dives and folks stuff. And not only will I talk about you today, but I may take the rest of the week out and just take little shots at you online, just so you know. And if you feel like you can handle that, you big enough to handle that, you probably can. You cool, but just know that's how this is going to work. We are looking to have a respectful dialogue today. It is going to be it should be very informative. It is supposed to be very informative, very educational. Every question that is going to be asked from both sides is not out of hate or malice. It is out of sheer, true wanting to know. Eric is a member of the LGBTQ plus community. We're going to be talking about homosexuality and the church. He in no way is a representative of the entire community, okay? He's a representative of him. His opinions, his thoughts, his everything.
Yes.
But as a member of that community, there's some insight he can give to us that we wouldn't have otherwise. Mm-hmm. the church has been not dealing with this topic for too long, and the few times we do deal with it, we deal with it in such a backhanded, idiotic, ignorant way that does not reflect the love of Christ, that it's sickening. And so as a result, we're going to have a conversation today. We're going to talk about homosexuality in the church. We're going to talk about him with his experiences and things that he's been through. Yes, I am going to be me. I am a pastor, so I'm going to be me. Jesus is going to be invoked in here. I can't help it. It's what I do. My goal, however, is not, if he is not saved, I ain't asked him for a reason, is not to win him over to go ahead and be saved, to stop being a homosexual. No, I ain't doing that. That's not what my job is to do today. My job is to treat him with love and respect as he treats me with love and respect, and we have this conversation. There's going to be some Jesus in it. It's going to happen. I'm going to speak the truth as the word of God declares, but I'm going to show you how we should be speaking the truth and how we should be having these conversations. And so I warn you now, if this going to be the kind of show for you that you think you're going to get some stuff, oh, please get off my podcast. I don't need your viewership that much. I appreciate Eric because he's always on our podcast, commenting, having fun with us. He keeps a lot of our episodes flowing and having fun. So we wanted to have him on. We wanted to have some conversation with him. So with that being said, let us once again welcome Mr. Eric Spade. Welcome, sir. We appreciate you for coming on the podcast. I'm excited. I've been excited since you said yes. I really have.
No, I thank you. Like I said, I appreciate you guys for letting me on the podcast. And like I said, a lot of people don't want to talk about these issues, but these are issues that need to be talked about. And like, before the show, I was saying that a lot of the stuff that goes on, especially with our community right now, is just, the stuff, the transgender stuff, and whether that people should be athletes and participate in that kind of sport. So I have very different views about that. That doesn't really follow the mainstream cycle on it. So I'm happy to talk about it, and thank you guys again for letting me join the show.
We love it. We love it. We love it. So let's do it this way. Didn't you say you had some questions first, some icebreaker type questions first?
So
let's go ahead and do that first, and then we'll get deep into it.
While I was in my hospital stay, I was asking people, I'm like, how they always talk about a villain's origin story. So what about the superheroes? I consider us to be superheroes, not villains, at least on most days. Like, I don't wake up to be the villain. I can be, but anyway. But so, Eric, what's your origin story? Where are you from? Who your peoples? What you doing?
So I was born in North Carolina. I was born in North Carolina, raised in Virginia, close to the DC area. So I went to school up there and had lots of friends. That was most of where my life was. And then most of my family still lives in North Carolina. So we go down there back and forth to see my families and go back to Virginia because that's where the jobs were. My mom worked she worked up in DC. So we moved up there and we had a good life. My parents divorced around when I was about 6 or 7. And so I grew up just living with my mom, just her and I for a long time. So that was an experience when you kind of grew up in a household without the father there. My father was around. He just wasn't. I see him like every other weekend or stuff like that. So I learned a lot of stuff from him too, but he wasn't in the household probably during the years that he could have been. During my teenage years, those years that we do stuff that we kind of regret. But so it's always nice to have that father figure. But yeah, other than that, had a good life, middle class lifestyle, I would say. Had a regular group of friends. It was all my schools really were really mixed. We had every different, ethnicity, race up in there. So I got exposure to, having that multicultural experience at a young age. So I think that helped me growing up as well. So, but yeah, that's about me in a nutshell. Then I joined the Navy with this. Eddie said he was gonna call me a knucklehead, but he refrained. But I served 2 tours with Eddie, and
No, he sure didn't. It's right up there. Let me put that up there right there real quick.
So yeah, we had some experience in that. And like I did learn a lot from Eddie, all that knowledge too, and as a young man growing up, and him teaching me all the ins and outs of the roads, in the service. So I think I had a pretty good life up until now. Now I'm going to school to be cyber warfare. So if anybody has any bad comments, I'll go ahead and hack into their computers and fix that. No, but no,
I like that. I like the sound of that. Matter
But
of
yeah,
fact,
that's
if you
about
want
it.
to, you can hack into my student loans and take care of
I'll,
them
I'll
too if you
hack
want
in.
to. You know,
I'll hack in and fix y'all T-Mobile internet. How about that?
Whatever it takes to make it work.
all right, TT has been really good so far. Okay, now that's your second shot at TT now. TT, the comments he has made, I know you watching and listening, the comments he has made are his own and not mine. We love you over here. Anything else you want to ask?
No, I think I got that. But that's good for right now. I'll be having questions. You know me, my mind just flows.
Okay, so I want to deal with homosexuality in the church, and I've been racking my brain as to how to like dive into this conversation, and I figured I'm gonna do it like this. We're just gonna talk. Like I'm not really necessarily gonna ask any questions per se right off the top. It's just conversation, and so it's kind of more like so. As you were talking when we were IMing back and forth about this topic and about who you are and things like that, we were kind of coming to the mindset of you're different in your approach and some of your ideologies, even as you said in the intro, than a lot of the community. So my first question in terms of the conversation is, why does it seem like, or why do people think that's the better way to say it? Why does it seem like people think that you all are just kind of monolith? Like you all have to think the same. I mean, everybody in the community is an individual person, but yet because you're a part of this different type of community, you all must think the same and deal the same. So to even have to make the statement that you don't think like the mainstream of them do, it's kind of weird to me. Only because I recognize that you are an individual. You're gonna have different thoughts and processes from your own life experience. Why is it that there seems to be that stigma that you all are the same, one and the same, and think the same?
No, I think it does. I think it stems from a lot just because, well, even the letters themselves, LGBTQ, they keep adding stuff. I think there's an I on it now. But, even that stuff, they kind of group us all into
Yeah,
one
it's an
community,
I.
which I'm fine with. But, even within that community, there are different stuff going on, different preferences, different things that can move from one part of the spectrum all the way to the other. So, me and a transgender, although, there's when it comes to preferences, we actually don't have a lot of common as far as that now, but we're still grouped in the same category. And I think what you're saying is kind of like groupthink, where I think because what we see a lot of the mainstream media and stuff like if you criticize that community, you get branded as anti this, anti that, anti LGBT, and so it's kind of hard to criticize the community in that way because instead of having constructive conversation, you just get branded almost like the Jewish community as well. If you brand Israel, criticize that community, oh, you're anti-Semite. Well, no, I'm not anti-Semite. I'm not anti-LGBT. In fact, I'm part of the community. So how can we have a discussion that gets somewhere and kind of meet in the middle on a lot of our opinions? Because if you talk to conservatives, Democrats, whatever your ideology is, there is commonalities that you will find in really every community.
Hmm.
So
I am in
and
wholehearted agreement with that.
and so there's a lot of things that I don't like and I kind of distinguish myself with. I know on one of your shows we were talking about like Dave Chappelle, how he made the LGBT community angry with some of his comments, and one of
Hmm.
those things where because I personally don't take offense to anything he said to that community, but there are some who do, and so that's one of the things when I say I differentiate myself. That's one of the things because number one, you're comedians, you can't take everything seriously, but it was so serious. I don't know if you guys saw that video where he was on stage. I forget what city he was on stage, but somebody had tried to come up
Hmm.
and punch him, and security. If you guys didn't see it, I encourage you to watch it. But security got to him, and it
Oh,
almost
and
looked like
like he
they took
stomped
his
him in the
arm
back.
off. Yeah, it looked like they took his arm off and put it back on, or he or she, whoever it was. But that type of stuff shouldn't really be tolerated, right? And it's almost like you can't criticize our community without repercussions, and that's not how it should be, and that's not the message that that I represent is to say those things or to commit violence, upon those put anybody just for having an opinion. And one of those things is, even the social media communities have stuff like that. I was looking at one of his things and said, when they slapped Will Smith, they said, um, Dave Chappelle, you're next, right? And that type of stuff, and they kept it on there for a while. And that type of stuff was threats from the community that he wouldn't tolerate that from anybody else. But from our community, we kind of get a pass, and that's not right. Any type of violence, no matter who you're from, should not be tolerated. So that's where I like to distinguish myself from that type of stuff because I don't agree with it, and people really shouldn't be doing it. Um, but go ahead, Jesse. You had something else. I was going to get into some other
Yeah.
stuff, but
Well, like
before I go down too far in the
even with
rabbit hole.
oh, trust me, the Real Talk podcast. That's what we are known for rabbit holes. So you
Oh
good.
yeah.
Like even when you mentioned the Chappelle thing, the thing that angered me about the entirety of the Dave Chappelle controversy was that it seemed like nobody really listened to what he actually said. I'm a huge Dave Chappelle fan, so I'm gonna listen anyway. I like his comedy because he's a different type of comic. The entirety
Right.
of that special wasn't him bashing at all. It was a tribute to someone he had met that had been just so wonderful to him, a trans person that it was so wonderful to him that when they passed, it affected him so severely, and that person was a part of the comic community. That person was a comedian, and so it was a tribute, and his thought processes were things that nobody wants to actually have conversation about. Me and my wife we were in the car yesterday, and we were having the same type of discussion. The issue is that we have all of these things, these questions, these misunderstandings, these whatevers, and nobody's allowed to have the conversation asked. Like she had the
Right.
question, I'll ask it for you that way you don't have to ask it. She had the question, and I don't know if you can answer it or not, but she was like, "What's the difference between gay and queer?" Like they're used in different contexts, but nobody will tell you what the difference is so that you can accurately be able to say, okay, I understand it. So now I know this person is queer, this person is considered gay. Nobody talks about the difference. Do you even know what the difference is supposed to be between the two?
No, a lot of those, like I said, they keep adding letters to that title, LGBTQI. Pretty soon we're gonna have the whole alphabet. We just need to take the whole alphabet and here you go. But your question with gay and queer, I actually don't know the difference. To me, it's the same. And so, but you go to other people, they may say something's different. We have the cisgender type of stuff right now, which I don't even fully. Are you cis male, cis female? What do you identify as? I don't even have the answer to that. Maybe I'm one of those old school in the community where all the young folks have these new hip terms, but I don't. Hey, look, my term is I like whoever I like. You can put a label on it, but leave it at there. But I did want to address something. Jesse, Eddie had asked me about. I don't know if you can put it up
Yep.
about
The transgender model.
yeah, yeah. So so Eddie, your question: do you feel that is white patriarchy driving the transgender media model? I do. I do think that has a lot to do with it. I think it's I think a lot of it is a distraction of what's the real issues that are going on, and so because we use a lot of cultural stuff in the media now to try to set an agenda, and this agenda that I don't agree with. I'm not on board with this. Just because you attach me to this
May I
title
jump
does
in
not mean I'm
for just
moving
a
in
quick
y'all.
second?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Because I got a question with his question. For those who have no idea what he's talking about when he says the transgender media model, can you give understanding to that? Because I'm be honest, I'm over here like this would be a great question to answer, but I have no idea even what that is. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think it's the we talk about transgender media model. I think it's just the media kind of going back to what I was saying about it's almost like you have to fit, you have to agree with this group or you have to go along with this group, otherwise you're branded as anti-LGBT. So like the transgender community, the media, they've been pushing a lot of the stuff where transgenders should be on the same teams, play the same sports, they should be considered, all this other stuff. And it's one of those things where that's something I don't agree with. As a transgender, if you want to if you're transitioning between male and female, whatever the case may be, you're biologically set with what you're born with, and so those type of things, you have certain advantages that, like in certain sports, right? If you're born a male, transition to a female, you still have traits that are different from females. Now, I'm not going to say whether it's better or worse, but you do have traits that are different. And no matter what type of surgery or hormones you take, you're always going to have that innate normal ability. Now, the transmedia model is that, oh, they should be included. They're transgender. That's exactly female. They should be included in every female thing, sports activity, stuff like that. And so that's the kind of narrative that we're seeing from the media, and it's one that if you don't agree with it, you're wrong and you're anti whatever. And so that's one of the things like I like to push back on, where is I make a big difference between those things, because you're not. You're different. Now, if you want to be called whatever, I'm going to call you that. But when it comes to sports and stuff like that, I think those should be different categories. But the media does like to push that to normalize it, where it said, no, you transition to female, you're a female, and that's it. Female sports, everything, and it's different.
Okay. So now let's get into the meat of the things, the conversation that most people are waiting to see how I handle. Because I know some folk they are just sitting on the edge of their seat. Oh my God, what is Jesse and Falana gonna say? What they gonna do? So let's just start off. Let's just dive into the deep end. Uh, what would you say is personally your biggest issue with the church?
My biggest issue with the church, and I don't like to say I don't like to say a full blanket thing, because a lot of churches, depending on how they're run, they can be different, or it's one church doesn't, it's not one size fits all. What I don't like is that a lot of the times what I've noticed just growing up is people like to follow what's convenient for them to follow. And so on one hand, yeah, I get a lot of stuff where say, hey, that's a sin and you shouldn't be doing that. But on the other hand, they're doing something else behind closed doors. That's a sin as well. But since it's not convenient to follow, it's easier to point you out and say, hey, you're not supposed to be doing that. And I don't like the whataboutisms, but it's just like, okay, if your stuff isn't all the way something clean, then you shouldn't be criticizing everyone else. Because at the end of the day, according to the church, it's not up to us to judge one another. It's up to whoever's up there to judge us. And so that's what I don't like, is kind of the judgments that come from a lot of the church. And like I said, it's not all. A lot of churches are welcoming and have that atmosphere to welcome everyone. Have that message that God loves everyone. But some are just I go to some of the pride. The pride. So this month is LGBT month, June, right?
Pride month.
And so you have all these pride parades and stuff like that. And every time I go, I see stuff. I didn't go this year, but every time I go, I see stuff. God hates F words. I'm not gonna say it because Facebook, they kind of iffy on that.
Facebook will shut us down for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, God hates F words. This have those signs up and chanting and all that other stuff. And it's just like, okay, if I dive into your closet, what skeletons you hiding, and you up here talking about us?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my issue with some of the church thing. I hope I answered your question, Jesse.
You did. Because you're absolutely right. The way that the church handles, actually, this part of my message was today when I was dealing with the portion dealing with how we are supposed to love. Like the way we deal with other people in general, not just the LGBTQ plus IA community, but just other people in general, is not godlike. Now, the dichotomy of the situation is my job is to love you, but my job is also to call what the Word of God calls sin, sin. Now, you're right. At the same time, yeah, I cannot be so judgmental that I'm not looking at my own stuff and trying to cover my own stuff. Because what generally happens with people is what they'll do is we'll point to yours so no one looks at mine.
Right.
And we weigh sin out and say, okay, your sin is bigger than mine. That's not how it's supposed to be. Like, right. I have faults. I got a lot of them. A lot of my faults you can't regularly see, which is what most people's faults are. You don't regularly get to see. You don't the curtain's not pulled back over their lives. When you are part of the community, it's out there because it's part of the expression. If you're a male and you are a homosexual male, you're going to hold another guy's hand. I can't hide that, right? That does not give me the right to call your sin sin and leave mine alone. It also doesn't give me the right to condemn you. I'm supposed to love you. Hate the sin, love the sinner. And we have gotten that so messed up, so twisted, where we no longer do that. We condemn the sinner and the sin and drive the sinner away in order to make our own selves feel better. And so that's why I felt like this conversation was so important, because let's be honest, church folk, there are more homosexuals in the church running around than what we like to admit. The running joke among most black comedians is, if it weren't for homosexual men, we wouldn't have choirs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And I grew up in the Kojic church, and I've seen a whole lot of them in different churches. It's the truth. Some of the most flamboyant, over-the-top ones are in the church. And as long as they are profitable for you, you leave it alone. But the moment it's not profitable for you, oh my God, there's a sin. They're going there. That's not how we're supposed to do. Yes, I call it sin. I'm supposed to call it sin. And so y'all understand, I'm not skirting and dancing around the issue. Yes, as a pastor, as a man of God, as a Christian, I praise ministries, I teach homosexuality is a sin. But you know what else I teach? Gluttony is a sin. For all y'all fat people out there who overeat. You know what else I also teach? Gossip is a sin. For all y'all people who can't stay off of the phone talking about everybody else's business. Disobedience is a sin. The fact that you ain't doing what God told you to do when he told you to do it. And I give no weight to it. No sin is greater than the other. So on top of that, let me go ahead and hit this real quick. Now let you or my wife jump in. Also, please understand, church folk, y'all do know you can be saved and be gay. You can be saved and be a part of that community. And if you don't believe it, you got liars who you say are saved. You got folk who've been fornicators who you say are saved. Oh, they just struggling with sin. Well, same thing. Sometimes you have a stronghold you can't get rid of. It ain't my job to get you to get rid of the sin. My job is to love you through it. And if you say you saved according to Romans 10:9-10, you are saved. My job is to help you deepen your relationship with God, and I let the anointing destroy the yoke. If he does. Because if y'all remember, Paul said, I got a thorn in my flesh that I can't get rid of. And I cried out, and God said, my grace is sufficient. We don't know what that thorn is. So I don't know if he was loving men, or if he was a liar, or if it was a physical thorn. I don't know. All I know is, while he had it in his flesh, God said, my grace got you. So why don't we extend that same thing? I'll shut up. Y'all go ahead.
Yeah, I think that we always, especially and so I've been to a couple of white churches, but primarily it's us in the black community. Like, we are so problematic when it comes to these conversations. Mm-hmm. At my big old age of 46, like I'm just not having the ability to openly have this conversation. Like, so okay, I'm going to say something, and some people are going to be shocked. And if you put a comment on here that needs to be asked, a question needs to be asked.
Come from my wife and see what happened. I promise you.
Right. So, because there's a lot of people who don't know. And I purposely do that out of respect for her. Like, it's not that I've ever denied who she is or our relationship. Mm-hmm. It is just out of respect, because I don't want people coming at her. So, for those who don't know, I actually have two daughters. We have Ashley, and then I have another daughter who is Sala, and Sala is transgender. So it took a long time for me to not be open because of the fact that she is trans. It is, for the simple fact is, I didn't raise her. I had her in my 20s. I was young, going through a whole lot. We'll talk about mental health at another time, but just going through a whole lot, and I didn't raise her. So out of respect for her, I don't openly broadcast it until she's ready to have this conversation publicly. Mm-hmm. But if you see us, you know that she came from my flesh.
Cannot be denied.
It cannot be denied. We make biologically we make clones. We make clones. Um, and it's up until now recently that people like my age, I graduated, that also have children who are a member of the community or who are trans, who live a different lifestyle other than we do, and that they're just not being open. And I was like, that's a dang shame that we can't even have the conversation. Like, why is it in the black community we can't even have that conversation? Like, black is a monolithic thing. Like we can't believe what you believe, love who you love, but at least let us be able to have the conversation. Like, and I understand that, like, sometimes some of the way that we have the conversation is offensive. It's offensive. Like, but that's because we lack an understanding. It's kind of like the words. A lot of the stuff in the Bible, especially when it comes to like women. Look, being a woman, some of that stuff, and I'll be like, I bet you I don't. Ooh, and my husband, he lift a hand to me, it's gonna be a problem. I bet you I don't. And some of that stuff is in the word. But we don't ever get a chance to have the conversation, like, or it's negative conversation. Like we previously had a member of the church she was a lesbian. And that's how she identified. And she came, and when I first met her, I was like, hey, I don't care about none of that. What I see right now is a person who's hurting, and just let me be here for you. The rest of the stuff we'll address when it need to be. But that is not your biggest issue at this moment. I care nothing about that. My issue is that someone hurt you, and I need you to get the help that you need for you so you can be healed and be made whole, and there be justice. Like, I want justice. I'm from the old school part of the Bible. I want justice. I need people who have done wrongdoing
And I shall
to
smite
pay
thee
the price.
with furious anger.
I'm here for that. I was like, you got the wrong one. I'm Old Testament as far as that goes. I'm the right one. Don't negatively come at somebody who I love in front of me. As soon as you say something, you got a problem, because now your problem is not my problem.
Yeah, that's a
So,
good
like,
point, Philonda.
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's a good point,
No,
Philonda.
go ahead.
I
Go
think
ahead.
I think it's because in the African American community, I think we're a lot more judgmental on each other than a lot of other communities are. And so a lot of times, a lot of people do hide that because it's one of those things where um, we're so judgmental that it's kind of like, and like Jesse said, it's kind of one of those things where you see kind of out in the open, right? Because you got the eye, you can look at someone and say, oh, yeah, they part of the community, right? You can just see that, and so it's kind of out there in the open, but yet we're still, it's still being hidden because it's very taboo and a lot of people are judgmental to it, and so I think that's one of the reasons, it's so prevalent in the African community, is because, and we have a lot of, even married people, DL, all that type of stuff going on, doing that type of stuff, and it's so taboo and judgmental that it's just hidden. We keep it out, and we kind of, just keep it closed in to ourselves. And then another thing is too, once people do come out in the open, it's just like that's who their title is. Oh, that's Eric. He's gay. Well, okay, but I'm more than that, right? I have other interests. I have other
Mm-hmm.
likes. I like different type of stuff. You just put me in a box. Yeah, that's it. We summed him up, or we summed her up. She's a lesbian. That's her summary. Okay, well she's more than that. They're more than that. They're transgender. Okay, they're more than that. What else do they do? What else? What else? How do you engage with them to make them feel like you're not judging them, or you're having these preconceived notions of who they are or who they might be? And so that's one of the things, and really just talking about it, like Falana, you were saying, we don't talk about it. Just talking about it is going to go a long way with talking about this and coming to the realization. So we can better understand this community, and the community can better understand other people. And like I said, a lot of times we talk about it and we kind of come meet in the middle somewhere, some middle ground, till we say, okay, I understand what's going on with you, you understand what's going on with me, and so how do we move on from here? But right now we're not there yet, because we don't even want to talk about it. We know what goes on, but hey, I saw Eric the other day, and he looked, yeah, we know but we ain't gonna say nothing. We'll whisper to each other about it, but we not gonna say anything. So, and it's like, how do we get to a point where we are starting to talk about it, where we do bring it to light and just stop being hidden? I mean, honestly, it's 2023. If there's a time to talk about it, let's talk about it now.
Facts. Like, so I'm gonna voice a frustration in the no, it's something I've said in private circles, but never necessarily publicly. And Eddie, I'm gonna come to your last three comments because all three of them I really like. Um, so I need the community to understand the correlation between statement, acceptance, and time. What I mean by that is, so let's say you and I have been friends for like 20 years, right? And in year 19 of our friendship, you tell me, "Oh, by the way, Jesse, I'm gay." I've known you for 19 years before that.
Right.
Give me a moment to be able to process what you have told me so that I can begin to react and adjust accordingly. Don't judge me by my first reaction because it's normally out of shock because I didn't know this. You had 18 years prior to the time you told me to wrestle with whether or not you are or not, and then wrestle with, okay, I'm going to finally start telling people, okay, now I'm going to tell Jesse. Like, you had all that time to process this, and now you comfortable enough with it to say, give me some time. Give me some time. And I feel like that with not only the gay community, but also the trans community is an issue which causes a lot of the offense and a lot of the back and forth because there is this expectation of, okay, I am, so you have to just deal with it. Give me a second. Like, we were talking in the car, and I made the statement where I said, let's be honest. This thing has just started to come to the forefront over the last 10 years or so. This wasn't a mainstream forefront type of thing. I'm old enough to remember when it wasn't. Like, I grew up in the 80s and in the 90s. In the 90s, we were saying the F word was acceptable, more acceptable than white folks saying the N word back in the 60s and in the 50s. Like, it was a flow out of your mouth real easy kind of a thing. And so I seen the progress and progression towards, okay, no, that's unacceptable. And that's right. It's unacceptable to say those things. But please, give me some time. It's not my fault. This is where some folk probably won't get upset with me and Facebook leave me alone. It is not my fault that because you're saying that you are now identifying as a woman, that you still have all of these male traits, I slip up and call you him. I'm sorry. I didn't mean no disrespect. But I got 42 years on this earth, and in 42 of those years, every time I met someone who looked like a dude, they told me they was a dude. Now I have to learn that that's not always the case, and I'm okay with learning that that's not always the case. And church folk, please understand, it is not about Bible versus not Bible to call a trans person what they want to be called, him or her, whichever. It's not about Bible. Let me tell you what it's about. It's about respect. Mm-hmm. We saw years ago, anybody who remembers the show, The Preachers of L.A., there was a conversation on the show with this white pastor. I cannot remember his name. I really wish I could remember his name. He had a member who was trans and was getting ready to transition. I believe he was a him and then transitioning to a woman, I believe, if memory serves correctly. And she had stepped away from the church, and he found a way to get her to have a conversation with him. So they met somewhere, they'd have this conversation, and she tells him what her new name is. And he keeps calling her by her new name. And she's like, I'm surprised you're doing that. He said, this is a respect thing. If this is what you want to be called, this is what you want to be called. I can't win you until I show you respect. How can I show you the love of Christ, but I don't respect you? So, church folk, that thing is about respect. So if you want to be called a female and you look like a dude, I'll call you whatever you want me to call you. Just give me some time to get adjusted to it Because I'm not a just. Every time I say it's not out of maliciousness, it's not out of hatred, it's not out of phobia. First of all, I hate. Can I also say I hate the term phobia at the end of that. I hate when people say people are homophobic. Phobia by definition means a fear of. It's not really about hatred; it's about fear, and so it's a whole different thing. They need to come up with a whole other term for people who have hatred for that community because it's not homophobia. Homophobia is a fear, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, I'm not operating out of a hatred for you. I'm operating out of ignorance. I don't know you. I just seen you, and you look like this. All dude looks like a lady. I'm sorry. It's not my fault. Correct me, and then we can have the discussion, and I will do what you asked me to do. But I feel like if you could, if time could simply be applied, the grace of time, the offense wouldn't seem as often, and you could really rule out, you could really begin to start to see and rule out who was doing this out of hatred and maliciousness and stubborn stupidity, and who was doing this out of sheer ignorance. Because the more you do, the more you see it, the less ignorant you become, and so the more you become accustomed to, okay, I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna say. And then you start to see all of that slip out of their vernacular, and they're normal. They react like they're supposed to react. And then there's going to be those idiots who don't, and you'll be upset. Okay, you're the ones. But everybody gets mixed into that batch because we're not willing to have the conversation. Like it's needed to have. Eddie asked a question I can't answer. Really because it was more addressed towards you, since you are not the spokesperson for the community, but you're the only member of the community we
Look,
have.
Yeah, don't put me in that. I am not the spokesperson. They would take away
Right.
my cards so fast.
He asked this question, which is an interesting question. He asked, "Do you think trauma is an inciting point for the LGBTQ plus community?"
Yeah, that's a good question, Eddie. I think so. I think a lot of it because another question is why does this happen? Why is it so prevalent, especially amongst black churches and whatnot? And I think several reasons is because of that trauma, something that happened in. Some people are just born with it. I believe that as well. But I think other certain things, because somebody had trauma, and not just when somebody was abused, it could be like a mental trauma or something that happened in their life where they're looking for something outside of the norm or what society considers to be the norm. And so a lot of traumatic events can trigger that type of stuff. For instance, ironically, we're talking about the church and how this happened. It started for me in the church, right? At a very young age, I didn't know anything about it. And somebody mentioned the choir. Yeah, it was one of the choir boys. And so it's one of those things where, it happens, whether they were abused or whatnot, they lost a relative. And so they're looking for some type of comfort. And different people looking for different type of comforts in different things, whether it's, food, drugs, that type of thing, and somebody's just looking to reach to be loved or have attention from somebody else. And if not getting it from what society deems as the appropriate gender, then they'll reach across the aisle for another gender. And I think a lot of that does happen as well. So that's a good question, Eddie.
He also said, I think the judgment comes, I put it up before, I'm going to put it up again. I think the judgment comes from the fact that blacks until 100 years ago didn't have control over their own sexual practice and activities. Anybody who knows me whenever Eddie's on the podcast, I always remind them. I promise you're going to get some Black History facts when you talk with Eddie, but they're always accurate and they're always on point. So please, just a quick little random shout out. Please make sure you subscribe to the Erudition Network and listen to Eddie's podcast. I believe it's every Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure y'all listen to him. He deals with Black history and he deals with our history in a way that's not taught in schools. He'll give you truth, he'll give you backup, and he'll give you insight, philosophical insight to help you understand what's going on. And the fact that we didn't have control over our own sexual practice and activities for hundreds of years.
Because we were a commodity. We
Yes.
were no more than cattle to them. So it wasn't like they thought of us having thought, human preferences, or anything. We were meant to reproduce strictly so that they can keep their product going. They can keep their plantations going. So we were no more than like cars.
Mm-hmm.
And you happen to need two cars to mate together to make more cars.
And I
And
think
that's
that is very important. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say that's a really good point. I never even really thought of that. Thank you, Eddie, for that comment because yeah, it happens. I mean, we talk about slave owners, we think of, a lot of the stuff. Look at Thomas. Hell, so many black people with the last name Jefferson, but a lot of that stuff
Right.
happens not only with the female side of the house, but also the male side of the house. So that type of that activity, especially if that's all you know, is kind of passed down from generation to generation. So that's an excellent point, and I didn't even think about that, but that probably does have a lot of impact as well.
He also made a statement, which I also love because it's very true. Black folks often align their sexual beliefs with what with what the society deems, I think is what he probably meant to
Deems,
say, with what the society deems is acceptable. And I don't think that's just exclusive to black folks. I think that's people in general. Whatever is deemed acceptable for that day and time, that's what we go with. So let me take it away from homosexuality for a second to help and really just mess folk up. For anybody who's 40 and over, y'all remember a time when saying openly that you like conolingus. See how I cleaned it up? I wasn't going to, but I figured
Good job.
that was a nasty thing. You didn't, especially when you was black. That's from white folks too. We don't do that nasty stuff.
You don't put your mouth on nobody. What's wrong with you?
You don't do stuff like that. And fellatio, that was some white women did. You a black woman would tell you in a heartbeat. You go to a white woman and get that. What the heck is wrong with you? That's what would happen. And this is in my lifetime. And then somewhere along the way, like early 2000s, I believe it was, somebody was like, "I'd love to do it." And then it became this popularized thing, and now everybody's talking about they loved fellatio and conolingus. It is one of the things. Now, I always have loved it.
Well, I'm sorry, not we, because I ain't doing there's certain parts I'm not putting my mouth on. But
I'm coming to the next one. But I've always loved conolingus. I'd love to do it. I didn't need no rapper to tell me that, but it was something that was unacceptable in our community. Now all of a sudden, grocery eating
there we go.
is the thing. If you ask somebody in 2002, do they eat groceries? Heck no. You might get punched in the face. Now, 2023, doing it and getting it done to you is the thing. Now, I ain't there, and I ain't going to be there. I'm still old. I'm in conolingus inflation and receiving fellatio and giving conolingus. That's as far as I go. I'm sorry. I don't put my mouth where exit only is. But now that is something that is acceptable. But that's not just a black thing. That's a every person thing. That our society wanes and has ebbs and flows with what the standards are, we go with it. And I think that because of that,
Well,
we have this combat right now because we are in a place where we have two different generations still alive, and that's where the conflict is. My generation is still alive, and in my generation,
Sorry, Eddie.
Eddie's playing your role today, Eric. Eddie said today they're eating groceries. Today they're eating groceries and the packaging. But we have two different generations that are still alive today. So we have my generation where all of this was deemed unacceptable. And we have this new generation who says, no, it is. And they're now clashing. Whereas before, the ebb and flow of what society deems acceptable and the things like that, it generally didn't start turning until the older generation was mostly dead. Mm-hmm. We're alive. And so there's this conflict of, yo, that's nasty. Yo, that's wrong. And we're attacking it in a horrible way. Whereas the newer generation's like, no, 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 it's not nasty at all, and you're just old and a fuddy duddy and stuck in your ways, and you don't know nothing, and you're ignorant, and you're homophobic, or you're racist, or you're whatever, and nobody's also taking into the account the context of, I am a product of my era. People do need to learn. I'm not excusing the fact that people need to learn better, but you also have to take into account where they come from. I don't expect somebody from France to understand all the nuances of American culture. They hear, I expect them
Yeah,
to learn it eventually, but I give them time. Go ahead, sir.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a good point, Jesse. And one of the things that this is probably going back a long time, but for instance, because I got a lot of family members who don't identify one way or the other, but behind closed doors, they had some stuff going on as far as, hey, you want to get somebody else to come up in here, and usually it's pretty, a lot of, because there's a big stigma on, having, because it's cool to have, if you male, female, and oh, the guy wants another female to come in. So a lot of people think that's cool. That's the new thing. That's yeah, that's good. That's good. But with the male, it's like, oh no, I don't want that. When we look at like Will Smith and Jada Pickett, swinging couple, that type of stuff. A lot of that stuff
Mm-hmm.
goes on, behind closed doors with people that don't identify one way or the other, but they do invite those type of uh, behaviors or that type of lifestyle into their home behind closed doors. And so that's another thing that's one of the things that's not really talked about. It happens so often, but nobody wants to talk about it.
Because we've made discussion and transparency and truth extremely taboo. I need you to live the truth I'm comfortable with, not your actual truth. And people who live their actual truth, we deem them all kinds of crazy ways. Will Smith and Jada, they had been demonized for having what people assumed was an open relationship. Nobody really ever knew, but people just assumed they have an open relationship, and so they must be doing this, and because we assume that they were swingers, they're this, they're that, and the third, and everybody had an issue with it, and then it came to light that yeah, they kind of do. Now we act shocked, but wait, what is the thing that y'all been accusing them of for 15 years, and now we
Right.
find out that yeah, they kind of do, and you're like, oh my god, but it's now because we shame you when we assume it, and then we shame you when you live it openly, as opposed to sitting down and having the conversation. Well, actually, before having the conversation, how about mind your own business? How about that?
Right.
How about if you just
Right.
mind your own business, you won't have all of these problems. Because I didn't care whether or not Jada and Will were swinging. I don't care who's doing what in whose bed as long as it ain't in mine. I care what goes on in my bed.
Right. Yeah.
And ain't nobody gonna know what goes on in my bed unless me and or my wife decide to sell the videotapes.
And they're gonna be expensive. Oh, no, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
they gonna be
It's
expensive.
expensive.
Cause they look, I do listen. You
Pull
see
it-
the
pull it back, sir.
podcast production here. We put on so we lights, camera,
Back,
action.
sir. Pull it back.
What's the name? Kim Kardashian. I promise she ain't got nothing on us. Her production quality ain't got nothing on us. Anyway,
But I think it's because and I'm glad I'm glad, and it's kind of a bad thing, and at the same time that we've gotten to the point where like everybody, especially with the social media, everybody puts all of your business out there, and then you get mad once people start asking questions. Like I think we're at that place now where like we're open, which is great. Let's be open. Let's have dialogue, but the way sometimes it gets presented, like you be like, wait a minute, what? And I think for me, and like going back to my own experience when Sala first came out, probably should just say she. It's okay. When she first came out to me, my first question was, I'm like, well, how do you know? Because to me, and that wasn't a like, this is a bad thing, and I think that's how it was perceived. It was a genuine like, hey, like, have you had any life experience? Like, cause you're a kid. Like, so, and here we go. Some people about to be shocked. But so, like, I had a relationship with a woman at one point in my life. Like, I don't identify one way or the other. Um, but at one point in my life, I'm like, so, hey, how do you know? Have you had an experience and you know, hey, I like this? And this is where I'm going from going forward. But it got blown out of proportion. And I guess because I'm older, and I can see that. I can see that. I definitely can see that. Like, that it was a judgment question when it was just a legit question. Like, hey, like, is this for you? Like, are you sure? Like, have you tried everything? Do you know in your heart of heart that this is who you are? Because especially as a black man, like, as like when it comes to black men, yeah, I feel like y'all get it the worst. Like, if you're a white gay man, it is nothing. Like, they be like, oh, well, that's their thing and that's something. But black people, like, we're being born black male is already hard enough. Like, they make it so hard on y'all as just being born, and then you adding something else on top of it, and then they just coming at y'all for like all of the wrong reasons. Like, I applaud you. Like, the don't ask, don't tell policy started in the church long before the military.
Long before.
Like, that was clearly somebody that was churchy that made that into the government policy.
Somebody who had a choir director.
Right. Like, but y'all have this so hard, and they act like that y'all choose to be this. Like, y'all want a difficult life. Have you had that experience?
Oh yeah, yeah, and it is a lot harder for African American males, a lot harder. And one of the things, it's like you made up a good point. It's like nobody chooses for their life to be hard. It's just it is what it is. We always want to come out of this and be successful and not be judged or have any hardships. But especially I have a lot of strikes to my, or what would be considered strikes. African American, that's one. Uh, Homosexual, that's one. That's another one. I'm two strikes already, and my last strike, I'm looking at him right now. He's he's a little light on the complexion. I'll put it to you that way. And so 3 strikes, you're out. And those are some issues that those are a lot of issues that people experience, and it's just like one of those things where I didn't choose to have this rough life. I don't want to have this rough life. And like you guys were saying, what happens, you do you. And it's good to have that dialogue and that conversation, because it's one of those things why we bottle up. And we do have these, as you guys would say, I won't say the word, I'll say the unalive rates. There's a lot of unalive rates in this particular community because of those things.
Right.
And so, and so, just talking about it can bring those unalive rates down, so people have that dialogue, that conversation, and can explore those topics of those. Because interracial, I mean, just hard enough having just a straight couple in an interracial type thing. That's hard enough. Go one of your churches, a black guy come in with a white woman. The looks he's gonna get, he's actually probably gonna be just as hard judged, if not harder, than the LGBT community. What are your thoughts on that?
Be a preacher and have it happen. I did it. My first wife was white. I did it. Be a preacher and let it be white and see what happens. Yeah, I get that.
Look, our soon-to-be son-in-law is white, and we are still alive in the era where we have family members who are old enough to be like, and why is she do? Because she love him, and you're not gonna treat him.
Right.
I dare one of you to come here, Jacob. I swear, like, we gonna have a problem up in here. I'll move furniture. This is who she love. And this is who she gonna be with, and either you gonna accept it or you not invited. I'm not sharing my macaroni and cheese with you.
Right. And so and that's a good point. And it's almost like, because not just one community, but multiple communities. Because even in my community, I walk in with some white boy. Who is this person? Why is he here? Like, no, this is my partner. Oh, okay, that's cool. No, it's not cool. But when you introduced yourself, you said you made it clear that it wasn't cool. And you're supposed to be in my own community, right? So this is the type of stuff. It's almost like a double a double jeopardy type thing is where you have to look out for those things and be aware, cognizant, because that stuff happens, and it's just like, again, 2023, you would think that stuff would kind of die down, but a lot of it still goes on.
So check this out. Here what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna come back with some more of this conversation. And I'm gonna open it up with a real controversial statement for the church to hear. Y'all ain't gonna like me when we come back. I promise. We'll be right back after this message from Real Talk.
When you look your best, you feel your best. When you look together, you feel together. Where do you go when you need the right accessories? You come see me. I have everything you need for the colors, for the classics, for the rings, for the bling, for every outfit, for your casual outfits, for your formal outfits, for your work outfits, for your hangout with your girls outfits, for your going out to dinner outfits. Anytime you need the accessories to add that bling to your life, come see me. I am Maya Jordan, and I am the owner of Crown Jewel. You can find me on Facebook at Maya Jordan. That's MayaJordan. And I am also on Instagram as Queen Elizabeth Jordan. So the next time you need some accessories or any kind of consulting, feel free to see me, inbox me, or catch one of my lives. Have a great evening.
And we're back. We're back. Sorry, we were having a conversation in the middle of. Oh, they probably heard all of that. But we have a conversation in the middle of the commercial.
Look,
I
it's
wasn't
real
paying
talk,
attention
yeah.
Hey,
to
Jesse, what happened to my
how much time we had left on the commercial. And yeah, just showed up as real talk. We just.
what happened to my favorite commercial, Jesse? What happened to that one? My favorite one.
Oh no! I didn't forget that. I'm saving that one for just before the banter. I've been told too many times I shouldn't have that in the middle of a serious discussion. Although I like it, I like having it in the middle of a serious discussion. I think it works well. I love that commercial. Matter of fact, I'm getting ready to put an order in that probably sometime next week from that in support. Sure have. But yeah, I love the commercial. It's coming back. It's coming back. But so as y'all can tell, we back. And so we are still talking about homosexuality in the church. And I heard a statement that you made, sir, that as a pastor, I'm supposed to disagree with, but I don't. And so I'm getting ready to take a lot of the church folk off. So all y'all church folk, get ready to clutch your pearls. Clutch your imaginary pearls that you bought from
JC followers, Jesse.
Penny. Because church folk don't really like to spend a whole lot of money.
JC Penny pearls?
Oh, no, my members know. My members already know. And if they don't know that they leave, hey, bye. I have no problem with folk leaving because of the truth. So the statement that you made, and you were making it in passing, so it wasn't really a major portion of your point, but you made it in passing, dealing with essentially people not really knowing whether or not they were born this way or not. And so the official stance of the body of Christ is that you can't be born that way. No. This is a choice. You were not born that way. You can be born that way. Yes, you can. I know as a pastor, I'm not supposed to say that, but yes, you can. And I'm going to talk from a spiritual perspective so you can understand that. So for all y'all church folk, we talk about things like generational blessing and generational curses, right? Well, because sin is a curse in itself, sin as a whole is a curse in itself. If you can be born in sin and shaped in iniquity, you can be born into anything that is sinful. You can be born as a child and be an alcoholic, but don't know it until you take your first drink at 21. You can be born as a liar and don't know it till you start speaking. You can be born all kinds of things in your DNA. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with the trauma, going back to Eric's question, although sometimes it is exacerbated by trauma. It doesn't have necessarily anything to do with, oh, I'm experimenting and maybe my heart was broken by the opposite sex, so I am turned off to the opposite sex, so let me try the same sex. It's not always that. Sometimes it's just in your DNA. And so my statement that I always tell people when I say, yeah, you can be born that way, but that's why Jesus said you must be born again. That's the dichotomy of it. So you can have this thing in you and be born that way, and that's what it is. It just is what it is. And the other side of that as well for church folk. Let me hit you with this real quick, and then Eric, I would love your response to everything I'm saying right now as well. Also, please understand, church folk, that even for those who come out of it, who are delivered from it, let me help you also understand that your deliverance doesn't necessarily mean, watch this, I'm really going to piss some church folk off. It doesn't necessarily mean your desire has stopped.
I follow this woman. Her name is Jackie Hill Perry, and she wrote a book called "Good God, Gay Girl." And she was a believer, and for the most of her life, she lived her life as, she identified then as a stud. But she was saved, and like in her book, she talks about like her transition and coming to reckoning with, and really what like drew her back into the church, because of course once she started dressing masculine, the church was black church. They weren't having none of that, especially Baptists, where they want you in skirts all the time. It became a problem. But for her, what drew her back into relationship with God is just somebody was like, hey. Somebody was like me, like, hey. All that's all fine and dandy, and I get all of that, but I see somebody who is hurting, and I care about you. It was the same thing that we forget in the Bible. With love and kindness have I drawn thee. We are so busy trying to like come up with ways to divide one another that people act like you just can't care about nobody no more. Like, and for her testimony is, it's like, hey, the thoughts never left her. Now, right now, she is married to a man. They have 3 children together. But she was like, if you think that all of a sudden I woke up one day and I no longer desired a woman, you are absolutely out of your mind.
Because that's not always what deliverance entails.
Right.
Sometimes the deliverance is that it no longer has power over you. The deliverance means that I no longer have to submit to the desire. I now have to build up my discipline to just walk away from the desire. Eddie mentioned something back, and I'm gonna be honest, Eddie, I don't feel like re-scrolling back for the comment, but you mentioned it, that sexual sin as a whole is a difficult thing that people struggle with in silence and in public all the time. It's a discipline thing. And so to think that just because, they haven't prayed and slathered with blessed oil, and we done laid hands and spit and spoken tongues and all that other stuff over them, and they say, now I'm saved, that all of a sudden that their desire has stopped. No, that's not always the case. Sometimes they're just building up their discipline, and they're going to fall in that discipline. Because to build up the discipline, you're going to fall in it, because you have to learn your limitations when you're learning how to have discipline. Our job is to continue to love them through the process. But to say that there's no way that a person can be born gay, a person can be born trans and feel like they are in the wrong body and all that other type of stuff is incorrect. They can be absolutely born that way. There is every biblical proof that is the case. Because we are supposed to be born in sin and shaped in iniquity. Because you can be born into a sinful state as the moment you take your first inhale and exhale. That means everything that the Christian church sees as sin is on the table for you to be born in. Here's the truth, and then I'll shut up and I'll let you talk, Eric. The truth of the matter is, most of y'all just ain't found what sin you were born into yet. It hasn't been activated,
or they don't think it's a sin. Like,
there it is.
Like being like, my little trip, my little unwanted vacation. Like I was talking with someone, and she was like, yeah, like both of my parents were addicts, and like this is now my struggle. Like, it wasn't like that one day I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going binge drinking and this is happening. Like, look, I watched them do this, and I had my first drink at like 11, and like, so here I am, and I don't like. This is not what I understand. Like the effect that it has have on my life and on my children's life, and I'm working towards like trying not to let it. But when I tell you that the urge is strong, it's strong.
Mm-hmm. Eddie, the floor is yours. I'm sorry, Eric, the floor is yours. I was putting up
Reading
Eddie's
Eddie's
comment
comment.
at the same time trying to talk to you. The
Eric's
floor is yours,
yours.
sir.
No, I agree with everything you guys just said. Especially what because Jesse, you bring up a good point because a lot of people don't, especially from the church, think everybody chooses to do this, that, and the other. But like you said, some people are just born with that, and that's one of the in our community that is something that's prevalent. I do agree with you on that. Is some people are just born with it, and that's just who they are and who they have to go through to discover themselves and discover what their journey is going to be in life. So that is a good point, and I think just having that conversation, that understanding, can really get people going to have those conversations and get people going in the right direction and be comfortable to talk about that stuff because yeah, like you said, you just hey, you choose to do that. Well, whenever you say that, you automatically shut down the conversation. Conversation automatically shut down. And so, no, that's one of the things where I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad you brought that up because it is something that needs to be said. And then another thing, Eddie Eddie is the new beat today. Like he putting all these comments in chat, but no, he does bring up some good points because
Yep.
it does say it does say to love one another, and so that's what we're supposed to do. I think we forget about that, and to love one another has become judge one another, and that's something that we need to get off of, and that's something that we need to come to understanding to. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
good that we're talking about it so other people can spread the word and talk about it, because we do. What I've noticed just having this conversation with you guys, we have so many people around us in these communities who go through these things, and because there's no one talking about it, they automatically get labeled. They go into a shell. They can't express who they are. They don't have anybody to talk to about it, and so they go through life not knowing how to express themselves, how to talk about those issues. And so no, I agree with what you guys said. So um, let me see Eddie's chat.
Because he throwing a whole lot out there. He throwing a whole lot, and I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
Let me hit this comment he said here, which I loved. He said, immorally lusting after a woman or man is still sin by the definition of the church. Why do we place the homosexual act over the heterosexual act? I'll tell you why they do it. Oh, no, I'm going to let you talk first. Go ahead.
Like I think like because it's the ones that make them uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
That's the people who bring that stuff up are the ones that make. So and I won't say the name of the church or the person, but you remember that one deacon that all the women would like steer clear away from,
Mm-hmm.
and that's acceptable. Like you'll have pastors and deacons and ministers, and this dude just be he is always touching people or in somebody's face, and that's acceptable, and nobody ever addresses that. Like dude, your behavior is inappropriate. Like seriously, touch one more chick up in here. That's okay, but until it becomes one that they're uncomfortable with. You can harass all the women. You can have the drummer having sex with the praise and worship leader. And they fornicating and making babies. Nobody say nothing. But the moment they get uncomfortable, that's the one that we not gonna stand for this. You stood for all this other mess that's happened. Look, church get dramatic. I'm like, ooh, the stuff in here is happening.
And that's
Well,
and
here's
that's
the
that's
thing.
a
The
good.
reality of it
Okay.
is this. The reason. No, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's good. Sorry, the lag, sorry, but no, that's a good point, Philanda. One of the things that it is about people being uncomfortable, like you said, and it's one of those things where because people are uncomfortable, a lot of times people will use the church to hide behind that and say, oh, well, that's a sin. That's you're not supposed to be doing that. Ew, I don't want to have nothing to do with it. Well, you the same person that's going. You got all these baby mamas going from house to house, and then you got the nerve to come over here judging me.
Mm-hmm.
because it's not because you want, it's because you want to hide behind the Bible, you want to hide behind the church, but in reality you just uncomfortable with my lifestyle, who I am. And so that's a great point that you bring up, Falana, because that's one of the things I noticed too, is people will hide behind the church when it's convenient for them to do so.
Here's the truth. And let me rephrase that because it makes it sound like I'm saying what you said ain't the truth, and that's not what I'm saying at all. Here's the truth: is just a Jesse-ism. I say it all the time. So for those listening, I'm not saying that what he's saying ain't the truth. It's just something I say. But here's the truth of the matter. So what it ultimately winds up being, catch this, is it's not necessarily just who I'm comfortable with. And it's not even necessarily that they have an issue with your lifestyle. It's sexism. The church doesn't have a problem if the offense is against a woman, because most of the church still has not recognized that women are not property. So the drummer, the deacon, the pastor, the whoever, they can screw over all the women they want. Nobody say nothing because it's just a woman. If they are dealing with a dude, oh no, that's not only is that unacceptable because the Bible says it's sinful, it's unacceptable because you're not supposed to screw over your own. You screw over the others. I think it's maybe about a week old now, but I just found out this week the Baptist Church, the Southern Baptist Church, is holding a vote. I think they're supposed to be holding it this week. In 2023, the year of our Lord 2023.
Not to have women in leadership positions
About
in the
women
church.
Pastors.
Yep.
That they will no longer recognize women pastors. Yep. And I was like, it's 2023. Why are we still having this argument? Because women are not people in the church. And therefore, the homosexual man, who stereotypically is supposed to have effeminate traits, can't be a person either. This is why lesbianism is more acceptable in the church and in society as a whole than homosexuality, because at least with one of the lesbians, one of them is supposed to be kind of the manish. So that's more acceptable than a man choosing, for lack of a better term, choosing to take on the effeminate role. It's a sexism thing. And so it goes on in church this way because it's sexism. I screw you over, but you better not deal with another dude. And if you doing it, you going to hell, not because it's sin, not because it's uncomfortable, but because you're not supposed to screw over your own. It's literally what I've been observing this thing. I've been in church all my life. So I've been observing this thing for 42 years. I promise you it is that way. Because if the drummer gets the praise and worship leader pregnant, the female praise and worship leader has to sit down. She's not allowed to serve, but the drummer can keep drumming. If the pastor gets a member pregnant, the member is shunned, the pastor gets to keep preaching. Look no further. I won't say his name. I almost
Don't
did.
say
And don't
his
you
name.
say his name either.
I won't go say
No,
his name.
it's your favorite pastor.
Oh, I
No,
won't go say his name.
There's a pastor
If you know,
who
you
is
know.
notorious, who was notorious, because I just preached about forgiveness today too, so I won't hold him accountable and say he's still doing it, but he was doing just that, notorious for doing it. And he never had to sit down, not once. And all the female members of his church that he was screwing, they got ostracized.
Yeah. Oh, well, she was acting fast. No, she was a child.
And
He was an adult.
And it's the cultural sexism. It's not. It's the church has been influenced by the world for that. I was just telling Falana yesterday because while she was on her
Unwanted
involuntary vacation, she missed the story where the rapper ICRS, whatever his initials are,
YSL or YSR?
yeah, that one. I think it's YSR. These
one that
initial
shot
people,
his two
they're on my nerves as much as the
Or
little rappers.
supposedly
Lil
shot
Baby,
his two
this,
friends or something like that.
No. He forcibly kissed Sarcoidosis or whatever her name is. I don't know. She has this long, unnecessary, ignorant name too. She's at this press conference or whatever. He comes up behind her, starts rubbing her shoulders, and kisses her on the cheek, and she already don't want it. And as she's moving away from the kiss on the cheek, he bends her back and begins to kiss her. And
Wow.
the internet kind of went crazy about it. But because she is the chick whose song was talking about eat the back end, trying to figure out ways to keep it as clean as possible so Facebook leave me alone. But that's the majority of the song, and that's her most popular song. But really, she's talking about it being done to the dude, not the dude doing it to her. But anyway, her name is whatever that name is with the good stuff. That's so somebody could look at her. They'll know who she is. And yeah, the video is horrible. I was like, God, dog. And I was upset at the dudes who were next to her not doing anything. And then I came to realize, it's because she's a female. Mm-hmm. Forget that she has a sexual persona. It's because she's a female. She gets to be treated less than because of sexism. And the LGBTQ plus IA community is kind of engrafted into that sexism argument because of how homosexual men and I hope I'm getting the title right, the transgendered women, the ones who were originally men and transitioned to be women, how they are perceived. It's not as egregious as transgendered men, women, those who were women transitioning to be men. Mm-hmm. They're not looked at as badly. The argument about the bathrooms wasn't about transgendered men. It's about transgendered women. The argument in society isn't about lesbianism. It's about gay men. They say gay trying to act like it's all encompassing, but anytime you hear modern day media and even the church say gay, the example that they give is always about a dude. You never hear it about a female because of sexism. Their objects are supposed to be that. Men are not. It's a sexist kind of an issue and an argument, and it's messed up because of that. And we as church folk, we shun the homosexual community, especially the gay male community, because how dare you decide you don't want to take on your kingly, godly authority and use your penis to penetrate as many vaginas as you possibly can. What is wrong with you? And that's the problem. And then in our conversation that we never like to have, we treat you all in that way because we don't understand there's a whole lot that goes into it. Now, I can deal with it, and I'll shut up so you can say what you were going to say, because I know there's a whole lot you may have to say to what I'm saying. I get if the disconnect between the church and that community was on the premise that the Bible calls it sin. That is a discussion I can understand where the two sides probably will never come to see eye to eye. That I can get. I'm okay with that. Everything past that, though, is problematic to me. Because whether or not this is sin or not, I, as a so-called believer, have an obligation to treat you with love, to treat you with respect, to show you the godly example that I possibly can, so that, let's just say it is sin, that I am able to win you away from a life of sin. Thank you. It's YK Osiris.
Sokiana.
Thank you. I could not say that child's name to save my life. Sokiana is her name. Sokiana with the... That's what she said. That's her the full name of her rap name is Sokiana with the word I ain't gonna say. If you see the video, and I don't recommend you seeing the video.
That video's not that bad. I see the problem with it.
When you hear it and hear her uncomfortability,
it
is real problematic, because there's a full video where they were already having a back and forth before that, where she was, as we like to say in modern day, curbing him, and he just wouldn't take no. And his apology was garbage too. But it is, yeah, it's
Yeah,
bad.
respecting people's boundaries.
Oh my God,
yeah,
it's bad.
he definitely overshot that one.
But but it's okay because it's her and she's a and she's a
Right.
sexual being
Yeah.
and she's a woman, and so as a gay male they'll call you like a woman. Everything that is
You asked
stereotypical
for it.
about a gay male is thank you, Mike. I appreciate you, sir. My boy Mike is on the line. Appreciate you, Mike G. Everything that is stereotypically associated with gay males is super effeminate characteristics, and the reason that is because women are property. That's how the church and society looks at them. If they weren't, homosexuality wouldn't be an issue. At least not in society. Now it may still be one in the church, but it wouldn't be society. But that's part to me, as I see it on the outside looking in. That's kind of how it strikes me each time I hear these conversations had.
No, that's a good point, Jesse, and there's a lot to unpack there. One of the things I do actually agree with what you just said, because a lot of it, and this actually goes back to the shows. I think was one of the first shows that I started watching on your channel, was the differences between, we were talking about African Americans get judged versus Caucasians, and that
Hmm.
difference there. Well, that's also in the LGBTQ
Oh
community,
yeah,
like you
yeah.
were
Why,
saying,
why they can do it and we can't.
and we can't. And so a lot of that is exactly what you said, is sexism and gender roles. What is the normal gender roles? Because you talk about that church, and I was reading about that um, online as well, that with the women can't be pastors. I think they voted. It was a pretty high vote. It was like 90 something percent or something like that. We were saying they didn't want that to happen. And so that is a form of sexism. But I think that's one piece, one part of it. I think a larger part, or I'm not gonna say larger part, but another piece of it is this more acceptable? It's almost like a cool factor for women to do it. Why? Because something kind of goes back what to Falanda was saying, is that they have those type of, oh, two women, oh, I'd like to join in on that, but two males, oh, that's a sin. And
Mm-hmm.
so you have that when you tie that into what you were saying, just with sexism, I think that's where the issue is, or where the difference is between women, LGBT community, and men. But like you said, it is a big difference in a whole new playing field, because like I said, a lot of people think that's cool for women to do it, but males, not happening.
There was a conversation on some podcast I was listening to. I don't remember what the podcast was. I really wish I could remember, because I am good for giving shout outs to great podcasts. And any podcast I listen to is great, because I don't listen to trash stuff. But they were having that type of conversation. And the question wound up being something to the effect of, um, is it gay for a man to have a male to male sexual experience one time? Why or why not? Versus a woman. And the overwhelming majority of the statement was, if a dude's doing it once, dude, you're a homosexual for life.
Yeah.
But women are allowed to have those experimentation experiences in college, and they all
It was
so they
just
all go to college.
college.
Yeah. You just didn't college. I tried it 6 times in college. Like the one of the hosts. Now I remember, it was the Breakfast Club. They were talking about it. Jess Hilarious was talking about. She said she had a woman on woman full blown kind of relationship and encounter. And she said, I tried it, 6 times, but I was just experimenting. I didn't. It's not something that I desire or pursue. It's something I wanted to try in college, and I did it, and I stayed there for a while. And then she started putting caveats behind, like, she did. I didn't do her, but she did me. That's how that worked and everything. So I stayed the female. But let that have been a male. The moment you have the thought, forget the action. The moment you have the thought is when you get messed up.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I say I feel like it's and I agree with you, and I have to, because I can't disagree with a member of the community that tells me something's going on in that community that I'm not a member of.
Oh, you get taken off the air.
But I agree with you
Your
in
show will be
that
canceled.
it's all of the things that you mentioned. But it's also a great portion of like, we just don't reverence women the way we should, And so anything that is feminine or has feminine characteristics or is perceived to have feminine characteristics, we shun, we downgrade, we degrade, and we just throw off as property or whatever. It's cool for women to do it, and it's cool to have a threesome where it is 2 females and a dude, because that's a conquest.
Oh, I just recently had this conversation with someone. And I was like, yeah. I was like, so if that's not the problem, like that's fine. You want all of that, but if your woman wants another man in the room, now she's a slut. She's a is that okay? Probably that okay.
Too late.
Well, it's too late. It's already out. Like she's all of this, and they ran a train on her. That's not a threesome. A threesome is only defined as 2 women and a man. I'm like, you stupid.
Oh no. By actual definition, up to a threesome is 2 females and a dude.
This is
a
not.
train. It's called a train.
Goodness.
Bisexual kink. It's called a train when you have 2 dudes and a female, or any more than 1 dude and 1 or more females. It is called, and the reason it's called a train is because of the penile connectivity. 2 females cannot be connected. They can touch, but they cannot be connected. As a male, if you're a female, you can have a male in one end and in the other. That's the connection. As 2 females, you can only be on one the other. Hence the train. But it's just a different name for the same thing. It is ridiculous. I want to hit this question that Mac dropped on here. Max says it does feel like its LGBT things are more accepted in TV nowadays, even with kid shows. How do we get over being uncomfortable with it? Can I address that first, and then I'll let you talk, Eric? Because I have an issue with the question as a whole.
Okay.
First, I don't think that it's accepted on TV. I think it's forced, and there's a difference. I don't think it's accepted. I think it's forced for money and for ratings. They realize the power. The buying power that community has, and so I'm forcibly putting things on television to try to get them to buy in. If it was accepted in TV, you would actually have more members of that community as lead actors and actresses. What you're having are straight male and straight female playing gay, as opposed to actual gay members of the community playing those roles who can act. I'm not for putting them in the role if they can't act. I want good actors on my television no matter who it is. I'm sorry. But because they are members of that community, they are shunned. As a matter of fact, the movie The Blackening, I just listened to this interview on The Breakfast Club as well. The writer of the Blackening, he identifies himself as a queer male. And he said, and I quote, "The reason I started writing this role and writing this movie was because I was seeing that as a black queer actor, I was finding diminished roles. I was always a sidekick. I could never be a lead. So in order to try to change the perception of Hollywood, I wrote a movie where I could actually play the lead and it'd be good. And maybe that will open the doors." So it's not really accepted, it's forced. How do you get over being uncomfortable with it? Get over it. Like, it's not, there's 2 things that you can do to me. You can either get over it or don't watch it. Your channel goes up and down. Your stop button works. You can dictate what you watch and what you don't. And this isn't an attack at you, Malcolm. This is just at the question as a whole, because I hear this conversation amongst as a whole. Why do we think that everything has to be comfortable or be for us? There's some stuff on television I don't like, but I don't want to take it off because it's just not for me. There's some gospel music I don't like. I don't want the artists to stop making music. I just know their music ain't for me. So I correlate what I like and what I don't like, and I watch what I like. And every so often, I might try to venture outside of what I like or don't like and take a look at it and see if I like it. And if I don't, I move on. I'm not a huge Ty Tribbett fan. The world loves Ty Tribbett. He got a few songs I like. I could really go the entirety of my life without seeing that buck-toothed black man ever make another song. And I respect the legend that he is, don't get me wrong. But a lot of his stuff is not for me, so I don't ever have to hear it. But I'm not going to knock my wife if she's listening to Ty Tribbett. That's what she wants. So you get over being uncomfortable with it by just not watching it. Or you just say, hey, this is life. People are actually gay in real life. They are.
And I think so. I was watching Gracie's Corner yesterday with Layla.
Okay, because I have no idea what that is, but go
Okay,
ahead.
so Gracie's Corner is like, uh, it's by a little girl and her dad, and they're both African American, and they created this whole, what I would say, Coco Melon for us. So they do educational stuff. It's a cute little cartoon. But the beats be hard. Let me just be honest with you. The beats be hard on it. And Big Frida, who is, I don't know her pronouns, so I'm going to say her. I could be wrong. I'm not sure about Big Frida. But so to me, I think she is trans, and so she is now featured on a new Gracie's Corner cartoon. And people, and it's us, it's always us, always black people. They're like, oh my God, you got this going on out here, and these kids. I'm like, at no point in there are they even addressing sexuality. They're not. Like, be open with your kids and have conversations with your kids. It's not being, if you don't stop pretending like it's not a thing and go ahead and have a conversation like, hey, this is how this person lives, this is how they identify, this is who they love. Doesn't mean has to be for you, but this is how they live. And we respect them one the other. Like, if we just have these conversations with kids, then stuff can't get forced on them.
Yeah, I
Eric,
think
floor
that's
is yours, sir.
Yeah, I think that's you guys made some really good points, and I hear that a lot is, why is this being forced on us? And I think Jesse, you were the one, or either Eddie might have said it in the chat, but it is a marketing right type thing. A lot of people in this community, well, not me, you guys heard it from the last show, I identify as poor, but a lot of people in the community do have that that type of money. They do cater to those to the LGBT group, and we do see a lot of TV shows with LGBT stuff going on. You see these relationships, it's more normalized, and I know a lot of people like to use the term forced. I don't know if it's necessarily forced, because probably everyone in this chat and on this, we already said on this show, can identify at least one person who's in the LGBT community that they know, that's in their life, whether it be family, friends, or whatever. And so when we see these type of shows, because you really didn't see that, in the 90s or 80s, stuff like that, it's kind of like maybe trying to be a better reflection of real life events. And Flan, I think that's what the point you were trying to make, which I agree with, is that somebody knows somebody, right? And so the issue, but it feels like some TV shows are focusing on that, and it all depends on what show it is, but that may not necessarily be the focus. That's just a reflection of our society, right? And so, and I think we should have a reflection of our society. What does our society look like, and how does it translate to what we do? If you guys remember, Bud Light was having they did some commercial with the trans woman, and conservatives were outraged by it, boycotting Bud Light and all this other stuff. And then Target's been under fire too, because people are like, you're forcing me to do this. And Jesse, you made a good point. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. If you don't like what a company's doing, that's the beauty of this country. You have choices. You don't like Target, go to Walmart. Go somewhere else. You don't want to drink Bud Light, don't drink it. Those are your choices. So when you feel like it's forced upon you, nobody's holding a gun to your head and say, hey, go buy this product from that store. That's not happening. And so it's really not forced. Like I said, it's more of a reflection of our society, and really doesn't reflect our society, because a lot of people who we know, but there are more who we don't know, right? And so we need to recognize those things and make it good on television. So you say, hey, you know what? I never thought about this. I think of my little box, right? Everybody's straight. Everybody does this, that, and the other. And I don't think about what goes on, what people are going through, or what their preferences may be. So a reflection of society, I think, is always a good thing.
I think as well, like, so I can imagine the emails and calls I'm gonna get tomorrow after this is over.
You'll be all right.
Like, I think some of the issue to me as well is like, black folk get on my nerves, because we speak about wanting inclusion. Not too many years ago, we were just screaming, Oscar so white, Oscar so white. We need inclusion. We need inclusion. when you say inclusion, you can't exclude anyone when you say you want inclusion. So black folks, we said we want an inclusion. Well, part of inclusion also means that community needs to be able to be represented in more television shows and more movies and in a meaningful way. Because I think we forget that the reason that we can have a former President Barack Obama is because we had the man who shall not be named, who I'm going to name now, Bill Cosby, having his own show, showing black excellence. Because before him, we had Sanford and Son, which wasn't showing black. It was a great show, not showing black excellence. We were always pimps. We were hoes. We were poor. We were downtrodden. We were gangbangers.
Good times.
Yeah, good time. Oh my God, 78 people in a small apartment fighting and beating our kids. And then there came George Jefferson. And George Jefferson, I'm moving up, but even he still had an ignorant black mentality, which actually exists. It does.
Like his show came from, people forget, All in the Family.
All in the Family.
His show came, he became a spinoff from All in the Family with his racist neighbor. Like,
and so if it hadn't been for that line, and then hadn't been for a Bill Cosby coming along with the Cosby Show and A Different World, we wouldn't see this shift in how America as a whole sees us. They still see us as hoes, gangbangers, and all this other stuff, and dangerous and criminals. They still see us as that, but they also now see us as, oh, there can be some good ones. There are some black excellence. There are some people who are moving, trying to do something. That happened because of portrayal, the visual portrayal. If my timeline is correct, I think the first two shows that I can recall that really had a visual of homosexual lifestyle was Will and Grace and Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, and neither one I watched, but I've heard enough about them. But they were like the first two that really had that out there, and then it started to become
then Modern Family.
The Modern Family. You have Ellen, who came out. It became this normal thing for white folk. They got to do it first, and so it's okay for white folk. We're catching up now, where there's becoming more. The Lee Daniels of the world, etc., are coming, where it should become more normalized. And the reason it has to be normalized, going back kind of to homosexuality in the church, black church, we are the white folks of the civil rights era, as it relates to the homosexual community, especially the black homosexual community. We treat them like white folks treated us. And they need to have their own, preferably non-violent Selma experience. It was Selma, for the most part, the publicized, disgusting beating of black folks by white police officers that made a shift in the narrative of our humanness, our normality, our existence. They need to have that, and the nonviolent way to do it is to keep portraying them in movies and in television shows and in kid shows, and making it so normal that when you see two guys kissing, it's not, it's, oh, two guys kissing. And now, unless you have that same reaction to PDA as a whole, then don't have that reaction to PDA with homosexuals, whether it be two gay men, two gay women, whatever. I see two dudes kissing, you know what I do? I look the other way. But you know what I also do? I look the other way and I see almost anybody kissing if it's not on my screen. Now, if it's on my screen and two dudes kissing, I still look away because that's not me. But do your thing.
Now, what I will
but
tell
it
you,
takes
I don't
that to be normalized so that now, when I, as a Christian, you don't like PDA at all?
I'm with you. Like, some of
Yeah,
it be just,
I don't like-
you be like, please get a room.
I
Get a
like
room. I'm the
I like
same
some
way.
PDA.
But I want to, Jesse, I don't know if you wanted to finish your thought here. I did see a lot of comments in the chat I want to address. But go ahead and finish your thought.
No, go ahead. Just call out the name so I can get to it. No, you're fine. Go ahead. Because I can
so
talk.
Trek,
So go ahead. Just let me know which one you're looking at so I can know that, so I can make sure I pull it up too.
Okay, so Trek, you may have to go back some. Trek G, he said it's almost like when they are forcing backlash in order to shame easily. shame people for not being behind it. And so this is where I don't know if you were. I think you might have joined a little later, Trek, but this is where because I'm not all on board with the narrative and the agenda. I think it does kind of differ for me as far as I realize some people do think it's kind of being forced upon them, and I don't like forcing anything. I want to live my lifestyle. I don't want to force it upon anyone. You do you. I'm gonna do me. So that's how I feel about it, and I don't like the narrative. Media narrative, it kind of does sometimes feel like, hey, you got to be on board with this, or you're anti whatever. And so I'm again. I don't like that aspect of the community. But what I will say is that we shouldn't be shaming. And earlier in the show, we talked about Dave Chappelle and his back and forth with the LGBT community. So we shouldn't be shaming people. It's okay if you disagree with us, right? But we get that message, that narrative is you not only do you have to agree with us, you have to support us, and that's not the narrative that we need to be sending people. But unfortunately, I think that is the media narrative. Malcolm, I want to address his comment too. He says, "I'm in Florida, an area where folks love the governor. We know who that is. DeSantis is where we allowed to say his name.
The
That piece of
dress up.
trash.
He who should not be named. Is that how we
Oh
address
yeah, you
him
can
on
say a piece of
Facebook?
trash's name if you want to.
So DeSantis is doing a lot of culture.
Let's call him out. As much as he is.
DeSantis is doing a lot of culture war stuff, and that's one thing I don't like either. I don't like the culture war things, the don't say gay bill, all that type of stuff, banning books and that type of stuff. I think that's unique. I think the NAACP even told black people to stop going to Florida, which maybe he has a point. Maybe they have a point, but the culture war stuff has to stop, and I think that goes back to um, kind of the politics and pushing that culture war narrative. So a lot of these politicians have something to run on, and I think that's one of the things that DeSantis is kind of latching on is to the culture war stuff. And he's one of the people. Eddie made a comment, a really good comment. It's way back. Don't even, but it's way back up there. But he says, the people who bark the most, the loudest about that community, sometimes are the ones doing it as well. And so that's a good point he makes. They may be anti whatever behind closed doors. They're with that guy or whatever. So people who bark the loudest, you got to be cognizant of those. And then,
And I find it. Oh, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead, You good, Philando? Go ahead.
So, like, I find it real interesting. People who are supportive of DeSantos, I was like he's giving, especially people of the Hispanic community. I was like, you do realize he's giving very much so Hitler vibes. Like his white Christian narrative is very much so giving Hitler vibes. Like it's not for long before he turns on his own people. Like he's very much so. For people who don't know, like Hitler was Jewish. He hated everyone who looked like him and got a whole society, a whole group of people to hate people who were him. He was gay. He had gays killed. Like he is very much so giving. You have to be very cognizant of people who are willing to turn on their own people for $1. At the end of the day, he is looking to get elected, and he is pushing that conservative narrative because he don't want people looking behind his own door. This is like his laws in Florida are absolute ridiculous. Like he is trying to turn it into a white Christian society, and I was like, that does not. In America, our Constitution says you have the freedom to be whatever you want, teach whatever you want, say whatever you want. And he is very much so pushing some hatred ideology. And you need to be very careful of people like that. They are good, and the people who are following him that are people of color. I'm like, you are being deceived and you're allowing it to happen. It won't be for long before he turns on the Hispanic community, his own people. He is a problem. I was talking with someone who relocated here, and she is trans from Florida. And I was like, so what brought you here to Atlanta? Because, look, it's crowded. It's expensive and it's crowded. And she was like, yeah, I just relocated here from Florida. And I was like, say less. Say less. I understand. Like, the amount of hatred that they are teaching down there, like, you're not safe. I get it. Because they're making more comfortable. And I was like, this is absolutely, like, it's ridiculous. And the fact that this person is going to run for the president of the United States, I was like, the fact that that even is possible to happen.
But here's the thing. I think first we have to understand and admit the fact he's in Florida, and Florida is a whole different entity.
That's
not
what Mac
act
was
like
saying.
Florida
Oh,
is not,
Florida.
let's not act like Florida is the United States. Florida is it's its own thing, right? However, what DeSantis is doing is he is running off. So I often say it this way: what's not understood will always be either abused or feared. And if it's feared long enough, it will also be abused. Because we don't have these conversations, because we're not allowed to have these conversations, whether in the church or out the church. I can't ask what all these letters mean. I can't make a statement. Okay, let me go ahead and make it. I was gonna make it anyway, but since I'm here, I can't make the statement about pronouns and get it without getting cussed out. I have a problem with the pronoun game. I'm sorry. I don't mean no harm to nobody, but I got a problem with the pronoun game. You took plural pronouns and are applying them to singular things, and it's making the grammar intellect in my brain explode.
I go by there.
You had the ability Their, There, or Thy apostrophe Re.
Their.
So like you had the community, whoever is the person or people who made this decision, because ain't nobody talked about who made this decision either. You had the ability to choose any words you wanted to or make up one, and you took plural so that people with intellect will go crazy. Now I have to say things like, they are at the door. How many of them are there? One. What? They is plural.
Hey,
I learned in
maybe
grade school. It's plural.
maybe if I put that on my resume, they'll pay me twice. Pay me two people. Hey, if they do that, I'll start calling myself there for real.
Listen,
Right.
if they do that, count me in. I'm doing it too. But like, I can't say that and ask the questions as to why did you choose they and their, when there was all kinds of other words you could have used or made up one, because all words are made up anyway. I can't ask that and without being homophobic. I can't ask, like Philanda talked about earlier, to ask somebody and be genuinely trying to understand, well, how do you know this? Like, I have an issue with, and I know, again, it's not popular. I'm sorry, but I got an issue with Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, and I am a huge Gabrielle Union fan. She is wonderful. She is almost like my Yolanda Adams, because she's a psychopath in all of her movies, and I like a little crazy. But to put the change and transition on your child and to allow them to start to make the transition as a child. I ain't gonna tell you how to raise your kids. It ain't my business. You raise your kids how you want to. But if you make it public, I'm allowed to tell you my opinion of it because you made it public. I got an issue with that. They're a child. You can't drink till you're 21. You can't vote till you're 18. You can't drive till you're 16. But you can change your gender at 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, however old she is. Make that make sense. There should be a conversation of, hey, we will support you no matter what it is you do. We will support you in how you choose to identify as a Christian. Yes, that is exactly what I would tell my child. I support them. I'm also going to tell them I'm praying for them. But I support you, and I'm going to love you regardless. But as long as you under my roof, until you reach the age of reason, which is generally considered to be about 16, you can't make that decision. Now, you get to be 16 years old, cool. You still need my consent to do it. but I'm not gonna really fight you on it. You're 16 now. We'll do some things. 18, you do what you want, cause now I ain't got to sign nothing. So you mean to tell me I have to be responsible for you in every other area, but I'm not allowed to be responsible for you when it comes to helping you understand this is not a decision you can make? It is a medical fact, or supposed to be a medical fact, that the human brain is not fully formed until you're 24. I believe the age is 24.
It's
Fully formed.
25, I think, because you can't
That
rent a car until you're 25.
means with full function, 25?
25. Right.
Full functioning reasoning, full functioning ability to have thoughts and processes and everything on your own. But at 12 years old, you can fully function to realize what gender you are. You can't even consent to having sex at 12, but you can consent to what your
Change
sex
your
is.
sexuality. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And so those things, to have an honest, open, non-offensive conversation, because if I could talk to Gabrielle Union, who don't care nothing about me, or I could talk to Dwayne Wade, who don't care whether I live or die because he don't know me, if I could have a conversation with them, just have an open dialogue conversation to discuss reasoning and understand where their perspective is, and help and let them understand where mine is, and even have a chance to hear their child, because I understand as a parent you want the best for your child, and you want your child to grow up in the most loving environment possible, so you try to foster this thing so they're in the most loving environment possible. Talk with the child so these things could be, but you can't do that. I can't make any of the statements I made without being considered to be homophobic and evil and this, that, and the third. Gabrielle and Dwayne Wade can't make any of the decisions and the discussions that they had without being called evil and stupid parents and all this other stuff. We have no discussion. And without conversation, there can be no understanding. Without understanding, there's always going to be abuse and fear.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, and that's a lot to unpack there, Jesse. But I think you brought up some really good points, and that's one of the things I actually I agree with what you said there. You know, when you're 18, you're old enough to make your own decisions, but until then, I think you really need an adult's consent, and that's something that needs to be discussed between a child and an adult. Now, with our community, there seems to be two extremes, right? And I kind of fall in between. But one extreme, you have the DeSantis who were trying to ban everybody. Who, you know, LGBT, blacks, he's just trying to ban everything. And then you have the left extreme where they're talking about, you know, gender reaffirming surgery and stuff like that, or, you know, taking the hormone pills and stuff like that without the parents even knowing about it, you know, in the schools. And I'm like, that is way, way extreme. The parents should be tracking on everything their child is doing, everything that's going up into their child's development. And so, you know, that's when I think that's overreach by, you know, on the extreme right, but DeSantis trying to ban everything. On the extreme left is like, nah, you can be yourself. When you're 3 years old, you can make this decision. I'm being extreme here, but you know, they want these children to make these decisions at a young age, and I'm like, no. And you know, the question is, should it be taught in school? You know, about the community and stuff like that. Well, we do have sex education in high school, and I think, like you said, Jesse, you mentioned 16. I think high school is a good point where they should be learning, or they can be learning about their things, right? Because we have options, what classes we want to take, and those classes maybe should be offered, but it's up to you and your parents to sit down and say, hey, yeah, we want to take this LGBT class, so because we have these people and we have this community in our world, and so my child needs to know about it. And so, but that's a discussion that you want to have, that I think you should have with your parents. Extreme left is pushing for, nah, you don't even talk to your parents about none of it. And I'm like, no, I don't fall. Because look, for the community, they don't send me an email. I don't get invited to the meetings. I'm just as blindsided as y'all sometimes. I'm like, what are we doing nowadays? I don't get a postcard, nothing.
I'll be honest, I'm not. I'll be honest, I'm not really even for sex ed being taught in school. Not the way we teach it. I need some licensed counselors to teach sex ed, because I saw my teachers. I don't want no other person to have learned sex education from any teacher, or almost any teacher in Alaquippa High School that I came out with. Thank God they didn't teach sex ed in my school. They really didn't. But I don't want to be taught. I think yeah, it's just horrible. I think that if we're going to do it, let's do it right. Sex ed as a whole should be taught by licensed counselors so that they
I
can
agree with that. Yeah.
intelligently and from a place of expertise, not a place from I just read a book, be able to answer questions. And yes, I also believe, and I know once again, the church don't like me for it. I am for the LGBTQ plus community's sexuality being taught and the fluencies being taught in high school. And I'm not even going to say with necessarily parents' permission, because half of the classes I had to take in school, my parents didn't permit. I went to school. That's what I was taught. I believe that it should be taught by a licensed counselor.
And I think because we don't have a standard across the board for stuff like that, because we had human sexuality once in high school, and it was in my health education class, and it was taught by the gym teacher, and he was so uncomfortable with it, and basically he was like, boys have this. I'm like, no, because in high school we haven't noticed, and half of these girls in here are pregnant. No, we haven't noticed that they have a penis, and then we have a vagina. Really. And it was like, okay. And then it was like, okay, just don't do it. I was like, well, it's a little late from that, because clearly she has done it.
I think some of our students can teach us better than you can.
Right. And I'm like, and if we be really transparent, one of the teachers in here is doing it with the students, because we all know it, and y'all don't want to address that. But my mom had to sign a permission slip so we can even sit in the classroom to even have that conversation. I'm like, you late at this point.
and that's why I think it's ridiculous to have parental consent for that. Like when I grew up, when I was coming to school, they were still teaching home ec and woodshop and auto mechanics, except we didn't have no auto mechanics in my school because we was poor. So we had woodshop and home ec. Nobody had to consent to that. That was a class you had to take in order to graduate. You had to take half the year of home ec and half of the year of woodshop to be able to pass to go to the next grade. I feel like because sexuality is such a humongous portion of your life, from the time you get your first woody or the first time your little seed begins to throb just a little bit and you get a little drip drip, from the first time that happens.
I need you not to teach it either.
I'm trying to be Facebook appropriate.
Okay.
From the time that those things happen to the time you die, you're dealing with sexuality. And for some, unfortunately, you may have had to deal with it before those times. Mm-hmm. And so this is something that because you're born with it, someone should be teaching it. And a licensed counselor has to be the one to do it. Has to. Because they should have, by trade, an unbiased perspective. They should have the education to be able to teach and answer questions. They should be able to counsel kids through traumatic experiences that will come up when you're inevitably talking about this stuff. That needs to happen. And then what winds up happening is then people can become more comfortable with a whole lot of this stuff. And one of my favorite things that should be able to happen, you can get uniform terminology. Because I one of my other little events is the LGBTQ plus IA community is becoming like black folks. Their terminology is becoming like slang. It's ebonics. It changes every freaking day, and I can't keep up. We need uniformity so that things can be understood, and in that understanding, we can grow appreciation and respect, and the conversations can get daggone better. Because I'm tired of hearing about so many people within the gay community and the trans community and the queer community and all the communities that make up the alphabets. I'm tired of hearing about the suicide rate in there. I'm tired of hearing about the depression rate there. I'm tired of hearing about that. And church, we're supposed to care, and we're too busy trying to demonize them for the lifestyle, but we won't care about them and their health, their mental health, their spiritual health. We want to demonize them as opposed to care for them. Talk to them, pray for them, love them, and watch what God will do in their lives, whether they turn or not. I'm just tired of hearing about it. And so I wanted to be in a place where we can become close together so that, from my perspective, so God can get the glory out of this whole thing. so God can be able to touch people's lives and help people and deal with people, and whether they change or not, so God can get the glory out of lives. I'm tired. And it's our job as the church to be the olive branch. We're the ones supposed to extend the branch to them. We shouldn't wait on them to come to us. We should go to them and talk to them. We should have holistic conversations with them in safe spaces so that they're okay to talk. And they know that they won't be judged and demonized for whatever they say. That's what needs to happen. And if the church ain't going to do it, let the school system do it. Because N-words is getting on my nerves.
No, that's a good point, Jesse.
I'm sorry.
I do want to push back a little bit. As far as no, I agree with you. As far as licensed professionals should be teaching
Go
it.
for it. I
That's
love
a real,
it.
that, that's a really good point. But the part where I want to push back on is the LGBT being. I think it should be an elective for now in high school, because we do have a lot of conservative parents that are going to push back on that stuff and saying you guys are trying to push an agenda, when reality is, like you said, it's just the reality of life, right? This our community, it's among us, right? We're all here, we're part of the community, we need to understand it. But I think right now you're just going to have so much pushback that right now I think it should be just an elective, something that kids in high school can sit down with their parents and say, hey, this I want to take this class, can I take it? And they have that consent from their parents. And so I do think that's where it should be right now, and then further down the line just make it a requirement. But go ahead.
Can I push back on your pushback for just a quick second? And the reason I want to push back on your pushback is, if you make it an elective, you're not going to find many kids being able to take it. I could care less about the parents. I want to save these kids' lives. It'll give them a space to be able to not only be educated about what's going on in their emotions and in their mind and in their bodies, it'll give them a space to possibly have someone that they can talk to about what's going on that they can't talk to their conservative parents. Screw these conservative parents, because they're trying to keep black history out of schools as a whole anyway, and are already doing a good job out of it. So I could care less about what they feel, what they think. I want it to be mandatory for everyone, because not only does it give the children who are going through these things safe spaces, because their suicide rate is, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say that word, their unalive rate, their forced unalive rate is higher than almost anybody else in the country.
Oh yeah.
I want to be able to save them.
Especially when
and
African Americans
if you
in
make
that
it
community.
mandatory, even the kids who aren't will, especially among us. And if you make it mandatory, the kids who aren't will then be able to understand, and I promise you'll get it. Doesn't seem like it because kids are buttholes, but you'll get less bullying that way, because the thing is normal.
Yeah. Right.
You'll get the normal amount of bullying. Like my wife used to have these huge glasses when she was in school, right? And so I'm sure that in school for a time she got bullied for the big glasses.
Oh, years.
But then out of nowhere, all of a sudden it became okay, because a whole bunch of folk who was bullied, not just the fact that she developed, but also the fact that like a lot of the folks who she was bullying or was getting bullied by, they got glasses too. And so now that it began to decline because of that.
And then the people who wear glasses now with just a clear piece of glass in it, it's not even a prescription. I'm like, that's a thing. The thing that I did in high school,
Thank you, Dwayne Wayne,
that I was ostracized for is now a thing.
And I believe that would be the same case with that community.
I think I'm buying. I see your point, Chase. I think
Go
I'm
ahead,
buying
Tom,
what you're selling. I think that maybe that can be a segment of the sex education, to have that LGBT portion in there, and then have a separate standalone class for it as an elective. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it should be like, if there was a way, like if I was the head of education for the United States, I would find a way to combine both of your theories. Like, because I don't want them, the only reason I don't want it separated out, Eric, is because some people have not come to terms with how they feel. And if they make it a separate class, then other people around them, other kids around them are going to start identifying them as that. And then there's the option to bully them, even if they're just curious and want an understanding. Because what if they're not going to the class for them? What if they're going to get a better understanding of a family member?
Or
Right.
what if they're going
That's
to
a
that
good point.
class because they're interested in the field,
Right.
and this is a good way to understand how to teach the field.
Right. So like I don't want to the only part with that was there's an opportunity for them to be ostracized and bullied and stuff just for taking the class. And so like if there was a way to combine like both of those, like I totally agree that should be in school. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff they don't teach
But
school. They don't teach finances. I was
Right.
in my little unwanted vacation. We were talking about like what is something you wish your parents would have taught, and the amount of people who were in there like my parents never told me about how to pay bills, how to write a resume, how to pay what taxes. Like what was that thing that happened all of a sudden after I started working? Who took my money? Like it's so much stuff that you like gets overlooked in the home that sometimes you need that curriculum in school.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, Falanda. And that
Go ahead, Eric.
I guess my only thing about it is that is it going to be because if it is incorporated, my only thing, the reason why I would want to separate it out because the same reason Black history should really be separated out because when we teach history, how much Black history are these schools teaching right now? Martin Luther King, that's it. That's all we know. Next chapter, and that's it. And so I think with the LGBT community, it's going to be kind of the same thing. And so that's why I think it should be kind of broken out. Just because I don't want it to kind of fall by the wayside. Oh, here's one
But
chapter. Oh, go ahead, Jesse.
I was gonna say, but that's why I feel like it should be by a licensed professional, because a licensed counselor, licensed psychologist, isn't going to give you just the broad stroke overview. If you one of my dear friends who passed recently was Dr. Francine Childs. She was the professor of African American Studies at Ohio University. She was like Eddie. I wish Eddie could have met her. I wish I knew Eddie in the time I knew her so I could get them two together. Y'all two would have a blast. Like, so when you talk to her about anything Black, you didn't get Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X. You got deep into it and the figures and where we were at and who was this and this is where we come from and these are the different things that happen and all those types of stuff. Like you got all of that from her because this is what she did. This wasn't something that she taught and then decided I'm gonna go teach something else or something that was pushed on her because we don't have enough English, we don't have enough African American study professors, so I know you want to teach English, but here, teach this. This was what she was passionate about. If you get psychologists, clinical psychologists, who this is what they do, they're going into depth because it's their passion. Also, there would be a standardized curriculum that says these things must be covered, and that standardized curriculum should be curated by members of the LGBTQ plus IA community. And so, since you want to combine our ideas, here's how you combine them. You got 4 years of high school, right? Mm-hmm. You have 1 year that's mandatory, your freshman year. The other 3 years, where you can keep going deeper and deeper into it to understand more and all those things, sexuality as a whole, along with the things concerning the LGBTQ plus IA community, those become now electives. But you need at least one mandatory year. When I was in school, you had to do 2 years of mandatory other language. And because my school was poor, we only had French and Spanish. 2 years in order to graduate. We had 4 levels of both, but you only had to take 2 years. They need to have at least minimum 1 year in order to graduate. And the other 4 years, or the other 3 years, you want to take it, you don't, you don't. But at least so that the thing can become normalized so the I'm all about trying to get these conversations to happen. Like again,
No,
if once
that's
the conversations can happen, we can whittle away at all the other crap and just
right.
come together at the table and get better understanding and make the world safer for y'all, make things more intelligent for us, and then we'll be able to have. I'm coming to your comments, Eddie. I just can't talk and click at the same time. Uh, we- we'll be able to come together, and then me as again speaking from a pastoral capacity, once those conversations can happen, now people could be more open to the conversation about Christ and the conversation about, hey, I understand this is how you feel. Please know that this is sin, but please know that this is not the end of the world. This is something that you can either that will either be a stronghold in your life, and it's okay for that, and God's got your back, and there's grace and mercy and love for you, or this is something that you can begin to come out of. And that's okay as well. There's grace and mercy and love for you as well. The cross and Jesus Christ was for everyone, no matter the thing that you are in. And I can have begin to shape those conversations without now the backlash in the back of the mind of people thinking, oh, you just think that we're all going to hell. No, it's not the case. No, I don't think they're all going to hell. I really don't. I just believe that the conversations need to happen so that we can begin to have open dialogue and respect and love for one another.
No, that's a good point. And I like how we had multiple ideas and we came up because I like your idea. Have it mandatory that first year and then maybe even the first 2 years and then having electives the last two. So no, I like that idea. And it's like I said, we don't have these discussions, and so it's just you're either on one extreme or the another or the next. And because we don't have these conversations, we stay on these extremes. But you and I, in the course of what between me, you, and Falanda, we came up with a solution that I think a lot of people would actually agree with. But we have to have that conversation first.
Right.
But I want to get to Eddie's comments. He has so many.
That's why I'm trying to put them up there as we go because he was hitting them. I appreciate Eddie. Keep
Look,
doing it.
Eddie, keep it up. We're gonna just add you in. You're going too fast.
He says, I do see a lot of depression in the LGBTQ community due to decided isolation. I hate that they feel isolated, and some of it is because they simply are seeking happiness. They cut family, friends, and others until they are alone. When the relationship doesn't work, that isolation can lead to self-harm or inflicted unaliveness. I don't think they're the ones, at least from outside looking in, I don't think they're the ones always doing the cutting off. I think there's a whole lot of family and friends doing the cutting off. I really do. I don't think it's in large part. I don't think it's them. I think it's people being intolerant and unloving and like, oh, you're this. I can't accept that. Don't ever call me again.
Eric, have you had that experience where like certain family members after you came out, like they just couldn't?
My family mostly just kind of didn't talk about it. My mother was, she said she knew, your mothers have this intuition. Falana, they just know everything. Like, oh, you coming out, I already knew. You ain't telling me anything new. But no, I think it's a little bit of both with the isolation, a little bit of the family kind of isolating, and then the member of the LGBT community isolating themselves as well. And because it for different reasons, because either perceive the perception that, oh, they don't accept me, even if they do. A lot of us have the perception, oh, they're just pretending just to, because I'm family or whatever the case may be. But in reality, they going behind and saying this, that, and the other. And so it's kind of one of those self-isolating things where that's why, we're talking right now. It's good to talk and say, hey, no, I actually don't have an issue with it. I'm sorry that you perceive that I do, because the perception is everything, right? What you perceive is your reality until you have that discussion. And so a lot of times, because it doesn't happen, we just kind of go along or ignore it, or perceive that that person identifies us or thinks of us a certain way. So it's a little bit of both, Jesse. But I think a lot of it is like on the family side, but it can be on the LGBT side as well.
So here what we're gonna do, because we've gone to grip, and I love it. I love it. Actually, what I want to do is I want to have you back on, and we do some of this some more, and really I want to have you back on not just for this conversation, because again I really think this conversation is important, but I also want people to see that you are more than just this, And so we could have some other conversations about some other things. Like for y'all who don't know, y'all should follow Eric on Facebook and see some of his intentionally provocative statements he makes as it relates to the federal government and the military and how they operate. I think that would be wonderful. I think it would be wonderful for us to have that type of conversation as well.
Another conversation we don't get to have is how our tax dollars unfairly treat them.
Absolutely. Oh, but if you've ever seen his stream, it's not just that he like some of the things that he sees in the media from a military mind's perspective is way different than what you would think, and could be classified by some who don't understand who he is as unpatriotic. I don't understand how you could be unpatriotic and you chose to offer up your life for our country. You just have a perspective that's different than what other people have the perspective of. And so I would love to dive into some of that with you as well as just to have some general conversation, like some stuff that ain't got nothing to do with none of that. See your thoughts on like what I normally do when I pick topics. Just see what you think about some other stuff. So we're going to have you back on. But what we're going to do, we're going to come right back after this word from one of our sponsors. We're going to have the Real Talk Banter where I will be able to pick your brain on some things. And just for you, sir, I'm going to play your favorite
My commercial?
We'll be right back after these messages. Yes, sir.
My name is Amanda. I'm the owner of the G-Spot Accessories and More. And I have been doing this since August of 2020. I wanted to start my business because I didn't see anyone else doing what I was doing. I wanted to just step out on faith and make couples happy, other people just spice up their sex life. My business is basically for single people, married people, just anybody. 18, they can be 79, I don't care, but if it makes them happy and pleases them, I'm perfectly fine with it. What separates my business from other competitors are I am very convenient. You can reach out to me at any time. I don't mind meeting you, shipping it, just openly to please you. Whatever you need, I'm there for it. So, quality, the toys, they're A1. I have like no problems out of them at all, and other people don't. But everything is just amazing. So my items or products are for everyone, whether you're gay, straight, couple. I have a little bit of everything. Well, I have dildos, I have pocket pussies, I have two-head dildos. Whatever you need, I have it. Where there's pheromone, lubricant. I try to have a little bit of everything. Swings, so just to lighten up stuff and just have your night enjoyable and one you will always remember.
All right, we back. Whoo, all right. So, your favorite, you enjoy your favorite commercial.
She said her products are for everybody, gay, straight. See, I like it.
That's my good friend. Shout out to my friend Amanda who does the thing for all peoples and just loves sexuality for all people. So shout out to her, and I really want folks to support her, especially if you like sex. Go ahead and support her. She got some things. Swing, like she said, swing. She got some new stuff too. She got a Facebook page. If you like go to Facebook and look up the G-Spot Accessories, and you'll see she got some new things too. Mm-hmm. And if you know of something that she don't have that you would like her to have, give her, inbox her, or comment on that page, and she'll get it for you. Because I'm friends with her as a person, and I've liked her page and support her page. I see comments that people be putting, and she be like, "Yeah, I'll get it," or "I'm already in the process of getting it." And then she sometimes has surveys like, "Hey, if I put this up and I get this, how many will buy it?"
But we should.
We're gonna get it wrong.
Okay, that'll be interesting.
Don't tell me with a good time. I love to talk about sex.
Oh yeah, we gonna get it on. I gotta figure, but she out there all the way in Mississippi. I don't know how her reception is. But we gonna get it
We
on.
can figure it out.
I have plans on like
Says the T-Mobile
my
internet.
goal for the Real Talk.
Right.
Look, you now listen. We ain't really jumped a whole lot. It has let you know. You keep talking about me. I'm gonna get you. It's glitched like 3 times. That's about it, which is way under the bar for us. We ain't had the camera go out or nothing yet at all. So you leave T-Mobile alone.
Hey, T-Mobile is
Yeah, she
identified
good
as
people.
working
Now,
today, huh?
My goal. I love it. I love it. But my goal for the Real Talk podcast has shifted again. I always want to have, the conversations that the church is not willing to have. That was the entire purpose of the Real Talk podcast when I first birthed it, right? But now it's not just that. I also want to be able to have discussions and interview people just about life and their life and things that they have going on. Like I have a friend of mine. Friend is probably used too strongly because we know each other, but I wouldn't say we're friends. He probably wouldn't either. But he's an actor and a phenomenal actor. He has been in a whole lot of stuff. Some stuff you know, some stuff you don't know. But I would love. I'm having him on down the road. We're gonna have him on. A good friend of mine out in Philly. She is. She deals with. I think she's still in Philly. She deals with a lot of political rallying, as well as is an awesome minister and woman of God as well. I want to have her. We're going to have her on down the road. Plan on having Amanda on down the road. I want to talk to some young people again, like I used to do when we had Holy Hills Radio. I want to do that.
Ooh.
I'm going to get
Destiny.
No, we can't get Destiny. We can't get Destiny because I'm not ready for her to be a grown adult yet.
She is an adult.
But I'm planning on trying to get my good friend, my mother in the gospel, Nicole Carter, Evangelist Nicole Carter. But I don't want to get her just on as just evangelist. I want to get her on as the creative that she is. She is one of the first female gospel rappers in the history of gospel rap. Like she and her accolades are ridiculous. And so I want to get her back on and have her be exposed. Like there's so many things, people I want to have conversations with now. I'm in the mode of I want to have conversations while having good while having good topics as well, but great conversations with people to show life. Because I feel like in those conversations, like the conversations we have been having, you begin to have those conversations innately that about things that the church doesn't like discussing. And it's only until things can get uncovered like that that the church can be what it's supposed to be, which is the representative of Christ. Ooh, I think I'm going to give myself a round of applause like I'm in church. Hallelujah.
Look, we don't
But
have
all
the
right.
audio to pipe in the applause and stuff.
Don't tempt me. I will do it. But okay, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and get to the real talk banter. And Eric, I have decided we're not going to do pick your poison. I might give you one question. I might find and pull out one question, but I'm still trying to give it. A rest. So that it doesn't get so overwhelming to people because it's getting nasty. But I like the nasty. My wife is like, it's getting kind of disgusting.
It's getting,
but I love it.
I don't mind nasty. I do kink, but it's getting
I love the disgusting too because I'm all about the shock value and the expressions on people's faces and the comments that people leave when they hear some of these questions. Love them. So, but I got a bunch of questions here. We're gonna go. These are basically either or questions or pick ones. So. And so I put a bunch of them because I don't think there's going to be too much discussion behind some of them, but I feel like it can still be good. So let's start with, since you mentioned Dave Chappelle earlier, let's go on ahead and start with him. Either or, which one you choosing? Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle?
Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle, why Dave Chappelle?
Dave Chappelle, I like that he talks about stuff that makes people uncomfortable, especially my community. Maybe I get kicked out because I'm like, yeah, get him, Dave Chappelle, get him. So I love the stuff that he talks about and that he takes it right to the line without really crossing it, at least in my opinion. So that's why I like him. Where Chris is kind of, he's scared to toe the line.
Chris Rock scared? Really?
I think so. He will
I
not.
ain't never known Chris Rock to be scared. Chris Rock called Will Smith and his wife a B like 19 times in his last special.
I think that's because he was just over them.
Yeah, but what did he say about the LGBT community? He
But
had to
Chris
make
Rock
some
is over
disclaimers
everything
before
he
he said
talks
something,
about.
though, right?
But if you know Chris Rock, that's how he's always been. Even when he talked about the N words, he made disclaimers. Like Chris Rock is not one who is he's not controversial for controversy's sake. He wants a clear line to be understood that hey, I'm getting ready to attack you, but I'm not really trying to attack you out of malice. I'm attacking you because this is attack worthy. So I've always known him to. I follow Chris Rock. I follow Dave Chappelle as well. He's always been one to make disclaimers. But okay, I will take that Dave Chappelle is yours because he is
I think you've
because
been outvoted, Jesse.
he's not afraid.
I'm seeing Dave in the chat as well.
Oh, I haven't given my vote yet.
Oh, yeah,
but
oh,
I'm going.
okay,
I'm going
okay.
to admit it. Who you vote? Yeah, I was just giving some defense for Chris Rock.
So,
Oh, okay.
I like Chris Rock, but I have to take Chris Rock in small doses.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with Dave Chappelle. There's something about Chris Rock's voice that I cannot take in large quantities. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate it when you took me for my birthday to see him because I was ready for him to address the slap. But yeah, I'm gonna Dave Chappelle always. He's more of for me an intelligent comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's thought provoking. I'm gonna laugh and I'm like, wait, did I? Okay, I get it. I got it.
Eddie, I'm so mad at you. Eddie said, I don't find Chris Rock funny, which is sad. But he said, I always feel sorry for his microphone. The man spits in the mic like it's a spittoon.
He does spit a lot.
All people who talk into microphones for lengths of time spit. Trust me.
Eddie doesn't like Chris's
So
attack on
for
black
me,
women. Is what it is.
Ah.
I hear that all the time, but I don't think Chris is a black woman attacker. He's always spoken from what has been his experience and what he has observed. Actually, as much as I love Dave, I actually am going to go with Chris. And I'll tell you why I go with Chris, though. I would have defended Dave if you had said Chris. But I'm going to tell you why I go with Chris. I go with Chris, one, because he's been funnier longer. Let's start with that. His first special is light years ahead of Dave's first special. Dave has evolved to become this master comic that he is, and ultimately the GOAT of our generation, right? But Chris is just a monster. He is moving. He's in your face. He don't care what you think. Chris Rock drops gems and drops lines that you remember for 20 years. Dave Chappelle drops thought-provoking conversation that you remember for the moment. It is 2023, and we're still talking about Chris Rock joke, N-words versus black folks. If I start that joke, everybody ain't mama knows that joke. And it provoked a conversation about the Civil War that actually was and is still happening in the black community. For every conversation he's had about black women and women in general, it's really been from his perspective, from what he has, from his history. And if you watched the special before his last special, The Tambourine Player, he wasn't talking about black women in a negative light. He was talking about his own stupidity and how he handled his marriage and what he did, and how marriage is about being in a band. And sometimes you're the lead singer, and sometimes you're the tambourine player. And when you're the tambourine player, you need to play that tambourine with a smile on your face, because nobody wants to see an angry tambourine player. And speaking as a former member of the Church of God in Christ, a black church, we love our tambourines. We don't want you playing that bad boy mad, because it comes through. Play that bad boy with intensity and with a smile, but you play that bad boy happy under Jesus. You gotta have a good time. And so I feel like his body of work is better overall. Dave Chappelle has had a better last run since he's come back from Africa than Chris. But he's also done more specials since he came back from Africa than Chris. Chris has really been on the back end because of his disability and trying to get himself together and also trying to get more into acting and becoming a better actor. Everybody hates Chris is true, but they only hate you when you're at the top. Everybody hates Michael Jordan too. So I think Chris Rock is in good company with that. But I can see that I'm outvoted. I'm normally outvoted when it comes to these comic conversations, even though I'm a
Yeah, I
comic
remember
connoisseur.
that last time from Bernie Mac.
Yeah. And I got a South Side of Chicago over here, so yeah, she always gonna side with anything Bernie. Which okay.
It's gonna be Bernie.
In the same vein of comics, I wasn't gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it because I'm a glutton for punishment and a glutton to lose. Plus, I want to get my wife back on my side. He said we could agree to disagree. He is not that Chris from CB4. Wow.
Yes, he is. That was a terrible movie.
It was supposed to be terrible.
Oh my
but
god!
But Pootie Tang was wonderful, and
Pootie
if
Tang
you went,
was
Pootie
not.
Tang was hilarious. Also, Eddie, I would recommend you see Fargo. The Hulu television.
Oh,
Go
season 2. Skip ahead.
No, don't go to season 2. Well, actually, you need to do season 1 so you can understand what actually is going on. But go to season 4, Chris Rock's season, and I'm telling you, it's not the same Chris Rock. He plays that wonderfully.
The only comedian I really
into him?
Huh?
Did he get a life change slapped into him?
Oh, he got divorced, but not really. That wasn't life change. Yes, sir.
The only comedian I really can't stand, I do not think is funny at all, is Kevin Hart. I can't stand Kevin Hart. I don't think he's funny. I don't know why people
Well,
watch
that actually
him.
goes to the next question. That was actually going to go to the next question because the next question was Cat Williams or Kevin Hart? Which one
Cat
you choosing?
Williams.
And obviously, I guess you're going to choose Cat Williams.
Cat Williams, all the way.
Baby, set him straight, please.
So my only beef with Cat Williams is that he recycles jokes. Like, he been telling the same jokes for so long in so many specials, and it's your fault because you pointed it out to me, and I was like, oh wait, I do know that joke. He don't have any new material
Ever. Cat Williams here's how you can find out for everybody who may think I'm lying, because Cat Williams is the funniest person ever in life. No, he ain't. Take his first 3 mainstream specials. Pimpin', the Pimp Chronicle. No, it was Pimpin', I think it was, where he had the green suit.
Yeah, Pimp
Chronicles 1 and Pimp Chronicles 2. You will find from Pimp Chronicles 1 to Pimp Chronicles 2, 50% of it is from his first special. He only sometimes tweaks jokes. He didn't do new material. Now, this new Cat Williams, last few specials, these are all new Cat Williams jokes, and they're horrible. His last couple of specials.
Yeah, I didn't like the one.
Trash.
The one I saw was World War III. I didn't like that one.
Yeah,
Trash. This last one he had out where he was, I forget what he was talking about, but I used his special in one of my messages in church because it was educational. I'm listening to a comic, and the only thing I got for him was education when he talked about water. He talked about water and the fact that water is the one thing in nature outside of vagina that you can't recreate. We know the ingredients and cannot make it. We know water is H2O, 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. And you still can't make real water. And it fit for the message that I was using. That's how funny Cat Williams is right now. Cat Williams, absolutely. When you hear his interviews, he's absolutely thought-provoking, but he's not funny. It's Kevin Hart all day. And Mike, my boy, I disagree with you. Kevin Hart is more than just consistent. Kevin Hart has evolved. People's problem with Kevin Hart is that Kevin Hart is no longer telling poor people jokes. When we saw him in the Grown Little Man, I told you I'm a comedy connoisseur. I can dissect this stuff all day. I dissect this stuff like I dissect the Bible. When we saw him in Grown Little Man, he was poor. So he was telling stuff that what we call normal people, can relate to. Kev is rich now. Kev got rich people problems. Kev has always told jokes based off of his life. So because the average person cannot relate, nor will they expand themselves to relate, he no longer is funny. He's still funny. His mind for comedy is brilliant. He is wonderful. And I have yet to hear him in a special regurgitate the same joke.
My issue with Kevin Hart is
Sorry,
maybe it's
I just think
maybe it's because of his movies. I don't know. I don't like him in any of his movies. It's like he's trying too hard. He's not funny. And to me, that kind of bleeds over into his specials. Maybe because I have that thought in my mind about his movie. I'm like, oh my God, he plays some terrible movies. I can't stand his role. And so I think that bleeds over onto the stage.
So I'm gonna hit that in a second, but right after I hit Eddie, because I'm a huge Cat Williams. I'm a huge Kevin Hart defender. Eddie, so Kev has find a special he has regurgitated, a special, not something that someone has taped or something he was trying out for a special. Find me a special where he has regurgitated jokes. He has not recycled jokes. He's never recycled jokes. His last special was brilliant. It was brilliant. What people didn't like was that the fact that he was in his home and it was not the over-the-top Kev that we're used to. The COVID special he gave was really minimized. And when you understand comedy, comics will often make themselves bigger or smaller based off of the size of the room. Mm-hmm. So if Kevin was Kevin in his home, like he is on stage in an auditorium, it's going to come off worse. His last special was brilliant when you just hear the comedy of it. He is brilliant, and I promise you, nobody is able to deal with the mind that Kevin Hart is. Here's how you know Kev is a for real comic. Other comics give Kev props not about his rise and ascent, but about his comedy. Mm-hmm. Mike, you talked about his performances on the screen. Kevin Hart's not an actor; he's a comic who's learning how to be an actor. I challenge you to watch the Netflix special he did with Wesley Snipes. I can't think of the name of it. I challenge you to watch that series and tell me Kevin Hart can't act. Kevin Hart went from being Kevin Hart when he had the comedy scenes that he was supposed to be a comedian to being a serious actor with Wesley Snipes. Or watch the movie with the guy in the wheelchair he had. I can't remember the name of that one either.
Oh, what was the name of that movie?
That movie was wonderful.
I'm just thinking about all these movies with like Dwayne Johnson and Jumanji and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And Kevin Hart makes it worse, it seems like.
They're supposed to be over the top silly. The movie Jumanji,
The Upside, that's the one with
the name of the movie that was talking about was called The Other Side with the wheelchair.
The Upside.
I'm sorry, The Upside. Go watch that movie. It's on Netflix. The Upside. It is a brilliant movie. He doesn't do any. It's not even a comedy. He goes completely away from comedy. It's not even a dramedy. It's all drama. Like he is brilliant in it. His Mike, his last two specials. If you're talking about Cat Williams, his last two specials are trash. If you're talking about Kevin Hart, people hate his last special in his home while they laud his special in Philly. So, but that's the over the top nature of it. Mm-hmm. Kev is like I ain't trying to convince nobody. I'm just trying to let you know. Like, I could talk about comedy like I talk about Jesus. I am a comedy connoisseur, and I really take my time dissecting. If I didn't appreciate the craft of comedy, I would try to be a stand-up comic. I'm
no,
not funny. I'm witty.
I gotta check it out now, Jesse. I'll check out that what uptick or up street, something like that. You said
The upside.
upside. Okay, let me
The
write that down.
upside. I will inbox it to you as well. The upside. It is wonderful. Eddie says as well, I do think David's changed his field. He sees himself as free. I can only go off what he has promised white folks. He would yeah, and that's why Dave is this generation's greatest of all time. The man was able to do anything he wanted to and told folks kiss his butt on top of and remained funny. He evolved and still remained funny. And now he's more thought-provoking and still funny. And very few comics can do that. He is the standard for this generation. As a matter of fact, I would go so far to say Dave is better than Eddie. Dave is better than Richard. And I like Richard. I'm not a huge fan of Eddie's. But Dave is better.
Do you really outgrow the predecessors?
Yeah, you can absolutely outgrow the predecessor. So
That's
I prove
another
it to
conversation.
you. I prove it to you using wrestling real quick, and I'll go to the next question. I'm a huge wrestling fan as well, right? When you think of wrestling, what's the first name that pops into your head?
The Rock.
You know
Dwayne
why?
Johnson?
Because The Rock has surpassed Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
Hulk Hogan is the ultimate when you think about wrestling. And wrestling fans,
Yeah, he did do what The Rock does beyond him, and The Rock does it better than him too. So,
I don't know if he passed.
Wrestling
I don't know if he
fans
passed.
will
Hulk
say
is just old. Most
Steve
people don't-
Austin.
like this new generation don't know about.
he
him.
passed him. No, he passed. Oh,
So the
Hulk Hogan. The Rock has passed Hulk Hogan in terms of movies and sales and worldwide recognition. He passed him in terms of merchandising, as it would. He was a wrestler and did it in a shorter span. The Rock was only an active wrestler, I want to say maybe 8 years. Hulk Hogan was a standard for 30. Eddie hit my favorite dude.
Ric
So
Flair.
Eddie Sr. hit my favorite
Ric Flair.
dude, Ric Flair, the Nature Boy. The greatest of all time. And the only time Ric Flair gets mentioned is when somebody who understands how to appreciate Ric Flair mentions him. The Rock wasn't just marketability because The Rock wasn't even the man in his era. He was the second man.
Cause Stone Cold.
Steve Austin.
Yeah, Stone Cold.
Was the new standard in wrestling, and now Steve Austin's not even the standard. You want to know who the standard in wrestling is? John Cena.
He's still wrestling. I
John
thought he was
Cena
doing
has
movies now
surpassed
only.
everyone.
No,
He
he's
does
still
that too.
wrestling.
But I mean, just in terms of even if his career ended today, his merchandising is about on par profitability with Stone Cold's. His marketability surpassed Steve Austin's. His presence and what he's accomplished in his career has surpassed both Steve Austin's and The Rock's and Hogan's. He's the new standard. So yeah, you can surpass your predecessor. You just have to be better. Dave is better than Chappelle. And yes, I recognize Eddie
You mean
that Dave would
is
say
better than Eddie?
I'm sorry, yeah, Dave is better than Eddie. And yes, Eddie, I recognize that Dave would disagree. He says Eddie is more naturally funny. But most comics who have come after Eddie and have come from Eddie's tree, they reverence him and will never say they're better. Much like Eddie would never say he's better than Richard. And he is. Eddie is so much funnier than Richard. So much better than Richard. Eddie will never say it. That's why Dave won't say he's better than Eddie. Chris won't say it. Kev, with all he's accomplished in terms of sales, won't even say he's more marketable and more profitable than Eddie. And the numbers say he is. And yeah, wrestling has errors, but you can still, unlike football and basketball, you can compare wrestling errors. But let me go on to the next question because I could talk about wrestling all day. I mean, I have two.
So could I.
Well, not
So
all
could
day.
I.
I have two rings on that are wrestling rings. My wedding ring is a heavyweight championship belt. It's a replica of Ric Flair's belt. So I'm a huge wrestling fan. I was born
Nature
into wrestling.
boy.
But let's move on. The greatest of all time. He's more than 16-time world heavyweight champion for those who know how to keep count. He's like almost 30. but the WWE doesn't count most of his reigns. But that's a whole other story.
He was my first doll. I mean,
Don't you ever
action figure.
disrespect and call it a doll. It was an
action
action
figure.
figure. It says it on the packaging.
It was an action figure.
You did that on purpose.
Why people don't give Vince
What
his
movie
props?
was
Vince
more
McMahon was good too.
As a wrestler?
As a wrestler?
No. As a character?
As a
yes.
As a character,
We
as a character.
give Vince credit for being the great mind that
Villain.
he is.
Yeah.
He was a great
He
villain.
was really only as great as Stone Cold was. The only reason he was that great villain was because Stone Cold was that great as an anti-hero.
Oh,
If
yeah.
he didn't have Steve Austin to work against, he would not be recognized as a great villain. Steve Austin was great with anybody. Vince was only great with Steve. Not really that great.
I think we're gonna have to have a wrestling talk one day.
If
We
I
are.
do, y'all
I
will really
could-
hate me.
I won't. I could talk wrestling. Eddie too. Eddie.
This
we
is
big
like
wrestling
this is
fans.
like church for me.
Cause y'all
I
need to
go
comment on
back to
Booker
the days
T.
of Bruno Sammartino, and I'm only 42. Oh, that's because Booker T doesn't need to be commented on. Booker T doesn't belong in this discussion.
Oh. Oh, give
Philando,
that
you
black
with me,
man
right?
His
Yeah.
props.
For what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
For what? For what? What Booker T need credit for? I'm gonna put my phone down. What's Booker T need credit for?
King
And I
Book.
love Booker T. What does Booker T need credit for?
You can't dig it. That's what it is,
Especially as a
Philando. He
94
can't.
king
He
of
can't
the
dig
ring.
it. He can't dig it.
You know why? Because I want to be able to be the Rock and pay people to dig for me.
He'll give that black. Look, that's my problem with wrestling fans like you. Like, these black people are in there coming into this very white arena.
Right,
And they are excelling.
Okay, so we
physically.
gonna do if we gonna do that, then you need to give Ron Simmons credit. Yeah, you see how is he?
Booker T
Is he?
better than him.
Is he? You mean Ron Simmons, the first WCW World Heavyweight Champion, Black WCW World Heavyweight Champion in
But
history?
Booker T was better
Without
than
Ron
him.
Simmons, there would be no Booker T.
I'm not
As a matter of fact,
saying-
Ron
Wait a
Simmons
minute.
helped train Booker T. We gonna talk about that person. That's who you talking about. If we're gonna give trash
But
Booker
he don't
T
have-
credit,
He don't have the name recognition that Booker T has. He don't have the name recognition.
Yeah.
you know why he don't have the name recognition Booker
Thank
T
you,
has?
Eddie, the junkyard dog.
Ain't nobody thinking about JYD. That man was fresh off a slave ship.
Wow. Wow.
The man walking with a chain around his neck
That wasn't his fault.
and was barking like a dog. You want me to give him credit?
He was my other
I'm not
action figure.
giving Slave Yard Dog credit for nothing, other than being a black man in a white industry and trying to succeed.
And he tried.
Tried is the operative word.
I think he paved the way for a lot of people to come in, especially during that Hulk Hogan era.
No, he didn't.
I guess the only thing he can smell is what the Rock
Maybe
is
we
cooking.
should
man.
move
That's
on.
it.
Big Cat Ernie Ladd.
Right.
Big Cat. Ain't nobody thinking about Big Cat Ernie Ladd. That cross-eyed fool. Ain't nobody thinking about him. You mean the man who almost derailed Rocky Johnson's career? You mean that guy? Oh, okay. Never mind. I'm sorry. I told you I could talk wrestling with the best of them. I do this. The Von Erichs. Now the Von Erichs are a tragic story that I don't care about. I can't even remember Gino Hernandez. That's how good he is. Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert was trash. Trash. Rocky Johnson we only know because of his son. Did you really bring Devon Dudley into this conversation with singles legends?
You knew who I was talking about,
is
though.
the
You knew who I was
half-brother
talking
of a
about,
white-
though.
Because I'm a real wrestling fan. That's why I know. She don't know who Devon is.
Wait, wasn't he part of a tag team though?
Yeah.
The Dudley Boys.
Yeah,
The
you
Dudley
took you a
Boys.
minute though. You didn't recognize that name right away.
Oh,
Get the table.
And if you go and you can't mention Devon without mentioning Bubba, and you can't mention Devon without mentioning Deacon Devon, the church character he played.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah, I remember
I
that.
do this all day long. Yeah. I do this all day long. Now the Briscoes were okay for the 70s. I'm talking about people who transcend time. No, but okay, we're gonna move on to the next question because you mentioned New Jack, and I will not mention that ECW lunatic. We will not discuss that ECW lunatic on my channel at all. I'm sorry, I cannot do it. We're gonna move on. We're gonna go to movies. Let's go ahead and go to movies. Talk about movies. That's what we're gonna do. What movie was more unrealistic, but is the better franchise to watch?
Oh Lord.
John Wick or The Fast and the Furious?
I would say John
Yes, I could do it all day.
Wick.
Me too, Eddie. Me too.
They both make.
Yeah, I would say John,
John
Wick.
Wick?
I'm not.
Now remember, now remember, it's got to be. It's the combination of more unrealistic but a better watch. So you have to not only make the argument that it is a
more
better watch than the
unrealistic.
Fast and the Furious franchise, but it also has to be more unrealistic than the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Oh, more unrealistic. If that's the case, yeah, I gotta go with the Fast and
So I
Furious
phrased
because
it
those
that way.
movies are just
Yeah.
those movies are just too unrealistic. I mean, they going underneath trucks and then there's so many of them too. It's like I'm kind of getting tired of the Fast and Furious series. So yeah, it's Fast and Furious.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie said Fast and Furious is not a good watch.
I think like at this point we are only watching the Fast and the Furious movies because they can. How do you after the car in space
They did have a car in space.
Oh my god.
with Tyrese and Ludacris in it? Why? Why is that a thing? Like
And they
They
never
make my
showed.
butt
They never
itch.
really showed them coming back and how they got back.
And
It's
how they
supposed to
got
take-
back.
It's supposed to take months to get back, but they got back in 3 days.
I did. What I will say about the Fast
at
and
that
Furious
point,
though,
this is why I was like,
that song that they came out with has been when that guy died. I forgot what his name, but that white actor died. And there's like up to 20 now. But it's
Oh, you mean
been
the
a
bad
long
driver?
day without
the
you,
bad
my friend.
the
That
bad
was a
driver in
good
the middle
song
of
off of that movie.
of a driving movie.
right.
Oh yeah.
It was a good song for a bad driver. You're in a movie all about driving, and
you can't drive.
Don't do that. Don't do that. You will get canceled. Right.
Hey, listen, it's been long enough. We can make the jokes now and tell the truth. But I think it's actually John Wick. I think John Wick is not only the better watch, but I also think is way more unbelievable. So,
Spoiler
yes,
alerts for the last
I get,
one.
No, I'm not gonna give. Well, first of all, it's been long enough. It's no longer a spoiler alert. If you ain't seen John Wick 4 by now, that's your problem, not mine.
God, I hope that movie
but-
does not come back.
So
It is
the
though.
the first thing is, yeah, I get that they went in, I get that Fast and Furious, they went into space and they jumped from building to building in a car in a country that should have had them on a terror watch list and shot them down immediately. I get all that. No problem. I'm with all that. Highly unbelievable. I get that The Rock held a helicopter with a chain
and pulled it
and
down.
pulled it down. I get that he redirected a missile on ice while sticking out of a car. I get all of that. All of that is unbelievable. But you know what it is? It's a
He gave
team
that
of
missile to
people
rock bottom.
doing unbelievable stuff. John Wick was one man. John Wick beat up and killed a whole league of assassins at one time through various movies over a dog. Then comes back in the second movie and continues killing people over a dog. I watched the man get ran over by a car
Hey, unaliving
and
people.
stand up without so much as a
Right.
so much of that. He didn't even back the windshield of the car all jacked up, busted to pieces. Then he comes back in the third movie. And instead of killing over a dog, he almost gets killed by a dog. Then in the last movie, he almost gets killed by a dog to befriend the dog, to have the dog kill on his behalf. All four of them are over about a doggone dog. And he kills hundreds of thousands of people
For the dog.
by himself. And if you ain't seen the fourth one, that's your problem. The man fights a blind man. And the blind man is hanging toe to toe with him in a fist fight. And you're telling me that the Fast and the Furious is more unbelievable than that? There is an off chance, super off chance, that some of the stuff in the Fast and the Furious is accomplishable. Take a car to your legs and your back going 60 miles an hour and tell me how you feel. That's what I want to know. And Mission Impossible was unrealistic. It's not timeless. I can't stand Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is one of the worst short men actors on the face of the planet. I love the fact that he's short and I can call him short. He is like being referred to as short. Tom Cruise is like 4'2", and so that's what people need to know. He can fit in your pocket. He's pocket sized at this point. And he's a really bad actor at that. Although his stamina is ridiculous, he loves to run. And the only reason people keep booking him in action movies is because he's willing to do his own stunts.
Hey, didn't you just say we're supposed to love everybody? What's going on with this short people stuff?
Right.
I can still love him, but call out the fact that he's short. The man is short. My kneecap is taller than him.
Stop it.
I also can love him and tell you he's a horrible actor who just happens to do his own stunts because he's got an unalive wish. Yes, Eddie. John Wick fell down 1,000 steps and was still, not only did he fall down 1,000 steps, Eddie, and was still ready to fight, but time stood still for the man. He had
that
like
was the
5 minutes.
longest 2 minutes in the world.
To get up all of these steps, gets halfway up there, gets knocked all the way back down, and still gets back up before time ran out. Kiss my grits. Not only in a suit, Eddie, but in dress shoes, in church shoes. I have been in church shoes. Your bunions and toes will kill you. Okay, I'm sorry. I just had to get all that out of the way. And yeah, Tom Cruise is an animal, Mike. You're right. He's an animal. He's an animal who needs to be put down. And yet he's coming out with another Mission Impossible movie. Someone please stop his career. Just let him go on into the wilderness. So next question. Got another one. This one I stole. Shout out to the Kev on Stage Studio app. Shout out to Keon, who's a comic who has a show called Keon's All Stars. And on one of this particular All Star episodes, he had an All Star lineup of best movie soundtracks. And so I picked 3 that I thought were the best of all the ones on the list, and probably the best of all time, really. And so you have to choose one of the 3 that you're going to say is the best of all time. Best movie soundtrack: Boomerang, Soul Food, or The Bodyguard. Yeah. I hate Eddie. He said Tom saved Japan. Yeah, another white man savior. That's all what we need.
Eddie says The Bodyguard.
So Eddie says he thinks The Bodyguard. Why Boomerang?
I don't know. I don't like the other 2 options. That's The Bodyguard. I don't know. I'm gonna say Boomerang. And was it Soul Train? You said it was the last one.
Soul Food, Boomerang, and The Bodyguard.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Boomerang. Yeah, I don't like the other 2.
So let me put it in better perspective. It is Whitney Houston versus Boyz II Men versus Mary J. Blige is what it boils down to. Boyz II Men were the face of the Boomerang soundtrack, End of the Road. Whitney Houston and I Will Always Love You and a bunch of other songs were all over the Bodyguard soundtrack. And Mary J. Blige was all over. I'm sorry. I didn't mean soul food. I apologize. Scratch soul food. It's not soul food. I'm sorry. Waiting to exhale. That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Waiting to
waiting to
exhale was the
I was
oh,
about
there
to
we
soundtrack.
say,
go.
what?
There we go.
I
Waiting to
apologize.
exhale.
Yeah,
There we
yeah.
go.
I'm sorry. That's where Mary was in. It's waiting to exhale. Because she was all over. Mary J. Blige was all over that one. She's the face of that soundtrack. So, waiting to exhale, The Bodyguard, or Boomerang.
Waiting to exhale. Yeah, that makes about a lot more sense. I was
Mary,
like, soul food.
you said.
Right. I was like,
So we got Whitney versus Mary versus Boys to Men. Yeah, it took me explaining it out in my own ear. Like, wait, that's not soul food.
Yeah,
That
it's like what?
was next to him. Yeah. All the time that I was loving you, you were busy loving yourself. Although we've come to the end of the road, and I can't let go.
ooh, okay, all right. Okay.
We know Jesse
All
does
right.
not identify as
So
a singer.
I'm gonna have to look these up because I gotta look at the soundtrack.
Nope, but on memory.
Right.
I really don't, and I have an EP out, and I still don't identify as a singer. Nope, not at all. Nope. No, stop cheating. Stop looking up. No, we ain't doing no lookups. No, off memory. Off memory.
Off
Don't be
memory?
cheating. Yeah. No. Off memory. Bodyguard. Boomerang. Waiting to exhale. Eddie got a point. Bodyguard still topping sales.
It is.
Mike has a point. He thinks that Boomerang has a more full soundtrack, and not just one artist throughout. That's also true. But Eddie comes back with a point. Also, like the folks are still singing songs to Bodyguard, but "End of the Road" is still one of the hardest songs in R&B history. So don't cheat out "End of the Road" and Boomerang. Trek says Bodyguard is out for sure. Okay, So. And he says he loves the Boomerang soundtrack, but you can't beat Whitney. It's hard. It's hard to go against Whitney.
I mean, Texas like
It
that was
is.
a Whitney album, but
But to Mike's point, Boomerang was a more complete actual soundtrack.
it was, and that's why I lean more towards Boomerang. Like I think a whole lot more like as far as being a soundtrack and being there to tell the story, like technically, and this people gonna come for me, and I don't care. Like Whitney Houston, like the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack, not Waiting to Exhale.
I gotta
Sorry.
say with XL too.
The Bodyguard soundtrack, that was a long video. It was a Michael Jackson kind of video. Like what was that? The movie I told you
Moonwalker.
wasn't Moonwalker. Yeah, that wasn't a movie. That was a long video.
I tend to agree.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with Boomerang.
So Boomerang and Mike, you said I'm sorry, not Mike. Eric, you said you was going with
Waiting to
Waiting to
exhale.
Exhale?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going Boomerang. And I'll tell you why I'm going Boomerang. End of the Road was a ridiculous, out of nowhere chart-topping song and single.
Mm-hmm.
We expected greatness from Whitney Houston. Nobody expected anything from Boyz II Men. And then you tag that with the incomparable Toni Braxton. Love should have brought you home last night. You should have been with me.
Yeah.
Like, I love me some Toni. And all of her ranges, all of her man and woman ranges, because she can get down there with the basses and up there with the altos. She is wonderful. Love Toni, right? You put Toni and Boyz II Men together while Babyface is writing for them. They beat Whitney 10 days out of 10. Sorry. And Mary, I love you, Mary, but you can't sing. You just have great emotion, and your songs invoke emotion. And so we love you, when you are depressed. We hate you when you're happy. And that's a condition of the emotion you put into a song, not a condition of your voice. So you're out. So it is
We
between.
like Good Morning Gorgeous.
You didn't even give a second thought towards waiting to exhale. So I don't want to hear it. Boomerang is the best soundtrack overall, and though people are still singing off of the Bodyguard soundtrack, you only know one song off of the Bodyguard soundtrack.
I Will Always Love You.
That's it. Now I can name some of the rest. People forget that, and I Will Have Nothing from Whitney Houston is on that soundtrack. People forget that I'm Every Woman is from Whitney Houston's on that soundtrack. Like, people forget that Kenny G was on that soundtrack. All we think about...
Kenny G was on that soundtrack?
See what I mean?
Oh.
All we think about is And I Will Always Love You. When you think about Boomerang the movie and Boomerang the soundtrack, everything starts coming back to you. You start with End of the Road, but then you gonna hit Tony Braxton's songs. You gonna hit Love Should Have Brought You Home Last Night. You gonna hit all these songs that, oh my goodness, yeah. You gonna, as soon as you start thinking about the soundtrack, and people are still singing them songs today, and I promise you, more people, when they hear End of the Road, light up than they do when they hear I Will Always Love You. We hear And I Will Always Love You, and we look forward to that note. And once Whitney couldn't hit that note no more, we was done with her and that song. We hear End of the Road right now, and people who are born and grew up in the 90s are going back to their proms, going back to dances, going back to breakups where they was reading letters that actually were written. It's Boomerang. Sorry. Yes, Mike, Boomerang had multiple great tracks. He said, I ain't gonna say it, but Mike, I gotta put it so folk can read it. He says, I guess I'm biased. The only thing I liked about waiting to that's not waiting. What the heck is that? It's
What'd you put?
WTH. No, I didn't put it, he put it. I'm trying to figure out what the WTH portion is. Because it's not Boomerang, it's not Bodyguard. And I don't recall where the line is coming from. And I found it funny until I started reading it ahead of time. Mike, you got to tell me which one that one is, because I'm blanking. I shouldn't like it on my own show. Don't stump me on my own show. That's not cool. Yes, you're right, Eddie. People have tried to sing the song.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Wait, Exhale. Yeah, that's what I thought. But Wait and Exhale, it's thank you. No, people don't remember just the You Raggedy Bee line from Wait and Exhale. They remember the car burning.
The car burning.
That's
Angela
the most iconic
Bassett
scene.
Makes that movie.
Yeah. and yeah, folks are still trying to sing And I Will Always Love You on American Idol and other song shows.
Ooh.
It's because that's a powerful song that a singer can showcase their voice. But normal people, when they hear End of the Road, light up and go back. We just try to imitate Whitney with the song. We relive End of the Road. I promise you. I promise you. You got a little couple more gray hairs than I do, Eddie, but I promise you, we relive End of the Road, and that's not just because my bias that Boyz II Men's the second greatest group of all time, Jackson 5 being first. That's just factual information. Let me get a couple more so we can go ahead and get up out of here because we're going a good time for what I like. We're going a good time for what I like. Like, it feels like it may be a little longer looking at the time, but we had about a 20
we spent a lot of time on the wrestling.
Gotcha.
So we're right about in the time frame I like to be at. We did that too. That is true. And yes, Mike, I Will Always Love You is a showcase song. If they stop commenting, I would keep responding. Listen, hold on, Eddie. You like End of the Road, but you're saying I have that. Okay, like yeah. But those are like Mike said, those are showcase songs. So you will sing them. You will sing I Have Nothing. You will sing And I Will Always Love You. But you live End of the Road. Even lyrically, you live one versus the other. The only reason that Whitney really did that song well is because our only comparison to that song was Dolly Parton. And you cannot compare Dolly to Whitney.
Even Dolly gave up the song afterwards. She's like, oh, that's her song. She can have it.
That's a singer's song. But to relive it, to give you emotion and feels and all of the things, it's end of the road. Bass coming in, girl, you know I'm here for you. All those times at night when you just hurt me and just ran out with that other fella. Baby, I knew about it. I just didn't care. You don't understand how much I love you, do you? Huh. I'm here for you. Yeah, I know the whole song because that's what it is. Let me stop looking. I got to stop looking at y'all comments. Y'all gonna keep making comment. And I'm trying to move on. Let's go on to food. Mm-hmm. I had another movie one, but I don't like it now because I don't think it's gonna generate as good a conversation as that one just did. You can't top that. So, which is the better chicken franchise? KFC, Church's, or Popeyes?
Popeyes.
I'm not
Hands
hating
down,
on Dolly
Popeyes.
Parton. She just have you ever heard Dolly Parton's and I Will Always Love You? It's horrible. But I love Dolly. Dolly was great, especially when she was with Kenny Rogers. I'm a music person too. I'm sorry, Eric. He caught me with the hate for Dolly Parton. But what'd you say? You
No,
said
you good.
Popeyes?
Popeyes. Yeah, that
Okay, so
chicken
wait,
sandwich.
what are
Oh
the
my
choices
goodness.
again?
Why is it
I
Chick-fil-A
thought that's
in
what
there?
you said. Love that chicken at Popeyes.
Yeah, why is it Chick-fil-A in there?
Because if Chick-fil-A was in there, Chick-fil-A is gonna win hands down. I'm trying to make the conversation.
Oh, I know
difficult.
why Chick-fil-A.
And
I
yeah,
know why
Mike, you
Chick-fil-A
missed a
in
great
there.
rest of the conversation. Go back for it.
It's the LGBT community. Hey, I still like it though. They got some good food, but yeah, they don't really like my community. we ain't welcome in there.
Listen, I've known in passing a bunch of members of the LGBTQ community. And they all say the same thing. He may hate me, but I love his chicken. So I'm going to actively protest it while eating it. And I'm like, go ahead, do your thing. But yeah, it's KFC, Church's, and Popeyes. So you say love that chicken at Popeyes.
Oh
what you
yeah,
going
they
with?
got the
Okay.
best chicken sandwiches. I think it's better than
That's
Chick-fil-A
interesting.
chicken sandwiches.
Oh,
Okay.
now I don't know about that one now.
But it's best.
I know that's right, Eddie.
It's
Harold.
best. I said franchise. Harold's is a mom and pop location. Is a mom and pop store. It's a mom and pop store that's got a couple of locations. That is not a franchise build. Okay, where's there Harold's in California?
I never heard of Old Harold's.
Where's there Harold's in
I
Pittsburgh?
heard there's one in Arizona.
What? Boom. He in Cali and they never heard of Harold's.
Yeah, because they ain't got no Harold's yet. But if you
But you know
build
what he
one,
has heard of?
if you build one, Eric, they will come.
But you know what he has heard of? He's heard of KFC, Popeyes, and Church's. Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Wait, where's Harold's commercial? Harold's ain't got no
They ain't
commercial.
got no commercials.
Exactly. That's why I said franchise. Leave me alone with them Harold's. And ain't even Harold's y'all like. Y'all like the sauce. Stop playing with me. Harold's chicken is just mid. The sauce, however,
The sauce
is delicious.
is fire.
I don't think.
I would put Harold's sauce on my chicken, and my chicken will outsell Harold's.
I don't think. I don't think Churches should even be in the competition. It should be Zaxby's or Bojangles. That should be in there.
Well, when you get your own podcast and have your own banter show, you can put them two nasty chicken places in your list. Zaxby's is disgusting, and Bojangles, that old slave place. Don't nobody want that slave place. I can't stand that mess.
Look, I ain't had them no place but here, and that chicken was dry. Them biscuits was drier.
You know why it's all dry?
Dry.
Because all the moisture went out of the slaves' tears as they were cooking it. Bojangles is horrible. Ugh.
You gotta dodge all the bullets to get to
my throat just
Churches.
got to.
right.
I be like this trying to get to Churches.
But when you get there, though, and in the illustrious words of Evangelist Janelle, who's a avid watcher and a member of High Praise Ministries, but did you die though? That's the question. You may have had to dodge the bullets, but you dodged them to get there. So you
gotta
say
do the Matrix to get to
Popeyes,
Churches.
and you say
I'm gonna say Popeyes too.
you going with the place that gave you food poisoning?
I know. So yeah, and so they almost killed me one time. But did I die though?
You almost did. Any place that sends me to the hospital is not allowed.
No, I
to be
did.
on the
I did
list.
not eat them for like a couple of years because I had I ate them and I ended up in the emergency room because I had food poisoning, and I never went back to that location. And that location ain't even a chicken place anymore. So
I am disappointed in you fickle black people. I am
KFC
You know, people were.
don't even have
disappointed
what you want
in
anymore.
you fickle black people. You black people are quick to jump off the boat and forget who brought you through, who brought you over. Y'all better go on ahead and get these lovely herbs and spices and go on ahead back to KFC like you got some sense.
You don't
KFC
eat it anymore.
I do on occasion. KFC is the
Yeah.
best. Of those three, is the best chicken franchise. First of all, let's go down the list. KFC ain't never gave me food poisoning. KFC has never made my toilet the home for refugee evacuees. Okay? I've never spent all day trying to get off of the porcelain altar because I ate KFC. Churches, I'm talking to you. You stole our name and you're blaspheming. Ain't nothing churchy or holy going on up in your establishment. The grease is so disgusting. It's not even old or day old. They had that grease when Jesus was alive, but they let Judas use it. And that's what they're frying in their chicken. Y'all are picking portions of the restaurant that you like.
You called
You
that
said
original,
Popeye.
that loose,
Uh-huh.
wet,
Yeah,
disgusting
cooked by
chicken.
slave masters who learned how to
No,
cook.
KFC. That's what you
KFC,
said.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, cooked by slave masters who learned it from the slaves. They just did it the white way.
And he said he don't eat stolen chicken.
I'll eat it, steal it, and put it on my plate. I would rather eat stolen chicken than chicken that's going right to the toilet. I'm sorry. What I'm not about to do. And the problem is y'all are using aspects of the place. You said you want Popeyes because they're chicken sandwich. I said chicken restaurant. So now,
I eat that
if you
chicken.
remove the chicken sandwich from Popeyes, all you got is their unspicy, hot, crunchy, dry chicken and their horrible, make you choke to death biscuits.
I like their,
none of their
ghost
sides
pepper
are
chicken wings.
ever really.
So you don't eat beans and rice.
They're never in stock. I don't eat them, but they're still never in stock.
The ghost pepper chicken wings.
Yeah,
Those
and
are
you know
good.
why you like them? Because it's so hot you can't actually taste the chicken. Because you don't taste the chicken, you just taste hot. Churches, all you taste is grease. KFC's chicken is better. Now their chicken sandwiches ain't better, but I don't eat chicken sandwiches no way. Their sides, for the most part, their sides are better. And have y'all forgotten about the parfait
Hold on,
that I
Jesse.
know
Let me,
all
let
of
me
y'all
put it,
used to love and eat?
Now we used to.
Let me put it to you. Hold on, let me put it to you this way. If you walk into a KFC and you walk into a Popeyes, how many of us you gonna see in there? Because we know where the good food at. You're gonna see a lot more of us in the Popeyes than you will KFC.
Oh, so you must see. Okay, so here's the problem, sir, and I say this with love and respect. You were on the West Coast where they have the worst food possible. Okay, so ain't nothing really all that great, especially when you're talking soul food type stuff on the West Coast. All the black folks are in their house trying to cook actual chicken because they can't get them from the restaurants down there. Y'all like Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles out here ain't even all that great. So to ask where the
No,
black
it
folks is at in a place where they don't cook actual black food is not actually accurate to ask. I grew up in the hood. Yes, I know you grew up on the south side of Chicago. I know. But I grew up in the hood, and in the hood, we was all at KFC. I go back to Pittsburgh right now, they in KFC. I go to most places on the East Coast, they're in KFC. I came to Atlanta from Ohio, most of us is in KFC. We KFCing it out. Down here in the South,
Brown
they
chicken.
are in
I forgot
KFC.
about them, Eddie.
Eddie, stop giving me these chicken places that ain't got no commercials.
I never heard of Browns
Yes,
either.
any chicken place that ain't got no commercial. Thank you.
They're in Chicago.
Any chicken place that doesn't have a commercial is probably better than the three I mentioned. I'm talking about the big three that got nationally syndicated commercials. That's what I'm talking about. The chicken
of all,
places
Eddie's
that
in
can
Denver,
afford
Colorado.
actors
They don't
to
even eat
come and do
fried chicken
commercials
over
for
there.
them. They really
They
don't.
got no chicken.
They they got sautéed chicken over there, sautéed and broiled. They take the chicken and put it in the water and just boil it until they feel like it's done, and that's how they eat it there. And all of your options are disqualified from this conversation because you're in where you are in the most Caucasus of Caucasus Mountain places. Eric is over there on the West Coast where they don't have soul food because they prefer Mexican food and Spanish food. So he has an excuse. You there where they like rice. They like rice. That's what they like. They like rice where you're at, Eddie. They eat plain white rice.
They like their guacamole over there where Eddie's at.
Yeah. They put the guacamole on the rice. That's what they do. That's what it is. No. But I will not forsake Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. Especially because when they choose to.
In the past.
And they bring back them hot wings.
They not bringing them hot wings back.
I bet you they do. Bet you they do. I thought the same thing about the honey barbecue wings. And guess what came back years later? Took a decade, but they came back. Watch them hot wings come back. And when them hot wings come back, I'm going to gain 30 pounds. If they bring them back
and they don't bring back parfaits.
I don't care about them parfaits. I never ate them parfaits. I know y'all love them parfaits,
That little bucket was life.
See all these memories that you have in the flashbacks, but you forsake KFC. That's why I don't like y'all flighty black people. Let's go on to the next one and make folks even madder. Better fast food, and I automatically am disqualifying one because I don't eat it, but I have to put it on there because it's big enough to put on there. Better fast food: McDonald's, Wendy's, Taco Bell, or Burger King. The original Big Four.
I'm gonna go with BK.
Not just one aspect of, but as a fast food chain as a whole. Which one you doing?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with BK. Wendy's is just nasty. I don't know why people like Wendy's. That's just a certain type of people that like Wendy's anyway. So I go with BK.
What's a certain type of people that like Wendy's? I'm interested to know. All right, Eddie, we'll check you later, sir. Thank you for jumping on. What's certain type of people like Wendy's? What you trying to say? What's certain type of people that like Wendy's?
The kind of people they got on that's their mascot. You know, the light ones.
Okay.
Oh, you like Wendy's?
You must not know that Wendy's is a thug, but I'm gonna come back to that in a second. Because when you must not know that Wendy's, you must not know that Wendy's is a thug. But which one?
You already know who I'm going with. I ride or die with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and die is the operative word.
Shut up! I'm gonna go with Burger King.
Oh, I thought you.
Yeah,
I literally thought you was going with Taco Bell.
Taco Hell? No. Taco Hell is for drunk people. I eat that when I need to cleanse.
So both of y'all gonna go with Burger King. Huh?
The flame broiled burger.
BK
that burger is always gonna have more flavor than all of those other burgers.
I am not allowed to go. I'm not allowed to go with Burger King. I used to work there.
I don't want to know what's going on behind the scenes.
I do, and as a result, I will not go with Burger King.
This is why I eat
I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Well, I know what's going on behind the scenes in Wendy's, and it's better than what's going on behind the scenes in Burger King.
I'm gonna taste that burger patty has been not the size, but the flavor has been consistent since all of my life.
I would love to go with McDonald's. Was going to be my first choice.
Wendy's is like Arby's,
but
you gotta pay me to go.
I don't ever disrespect Wendy's like that. I had to.
That's why Arby's didn't make the list.
That's why I went on it. I had to go. I was going to go with McDonald's, but I had to disqualify them because they took away my triple thick strawberry milkshakes. Then they took away my strawberry sundaes. So I'm really upset about that, and so I am penalizing them for taking away from me
the strawberry goodness.
Yes, because their triple thick milkshakes were delicious, and I would dip my fries in them and everything. Oh, and I don't really like fries all like that, but I would dip them in there. Oh my goodness, yes! And a fresh McDonald's fry, rightly salted, is one of the best things in the world. However, I got to go with Wendy's because Wendy's a thug.
Cause she got bars.
Wendy be dropping them.
Cause she got bars.
On the floor.
Yes. Oh, you must not know. Let me educate you real quick before we get up on this program.
So that rap didn't even come from somebody who works at Wendy's.
Doesn't matter.
It didn't come from
Doesn't
the corporate.
matter.
That was a person
They
who
did it in
has
Wendy's
bar,
name.
and they did it in Wendy's
And I-
name.
ain't no- who
Wendy's
done-
didn't even pay them for
who
that.
has done bars in McDonald's name, in Burger King's name? Nobody. Who's dropping diss tracks
You said
in their
food.
names? But I'm saying
Exactly.
though, I'm gonna get to the food in a second. But he
Right.
said, but wait, he said though. You said that that only the lighter side of the hand like Wendy's. No, sir. I'm sorry. Which one do I want to? Let me give you this one real quick first. This is what I'm gonna give you. Let me hope.
You know,
Yep, I knew
you know what?
were
Every
gonna
time I go to
commercial. That's
Wendy's,
why
I think of
made
Denver,
sure you
Colorado.
first. Let me help you out. Let me show you what Wendy's be doing.
Wendy's didn't even pay for that free marketing.
Because they don't have to. Because they going to get that work.
That don't mean we be in there. I don't see any of us
Right.
at Wendy's. That's how you know they got nasty food.
That's because we go through the drive-thru.
You number one. That's A-Joe. Why your ice cream machine always broke? Why your drive-thru always slow? Why your innovation just can't grow? It's Queen when you need a say mo. Nope. That baconator go crazy. That spicy chicken go crazy. You can take a fry, dip it in a sauce, and still be so tasty. Them little tweets don't face me. McDonald's be so lazy. I know the reason you hate me, cause I'm fast food's first lady. It's Queen Wendy up in this thing. Y'all can't be the serving them things. Y'all too chicken for this beef. I'ma leave you resting in grease. Nuts for Carter retweet. Boy, you know you can't compete. On top of our game and watch us. See, there's no stopping me. Let's.
Ain't nobody dropping bars like that in Burger King's name.
That
Also,
song,
for
I
the
like
record,
the song, but it does not
you
reflect.
say you don't.
It does not reflect.
It
their
does
food.
not reflect the food.
First of all, here the reality of the
And
situation.
they didn't even pay her for that.
Exactly, because they don't
Exactly.
have to, because they Wendy's.
No,
And they
'cause
operate.
They
They're
did-
operating just like black folk, stealing.
Wow.
So don't act like we don't steal. Stop playing. Let's talk some truth real quick. You said
Wendy's
you don't see
identifies
black
as
folks
nasty
in
food.
Wendy's, right? And Burger King identifies as food you only get when everything else is closed.
It does not.
That- no,
When's the
that's
last
Taco
time you
Bell.
ever seen a line
That is
outside of Burger
Taco
King?
Bell.
Right.
No,
That's Taco Bell.
Taco Bell you go to when you're drunk. People get drunk at 3 in the afternoon. I see lines outside of Taco Bell. The Facebook
No,
posted
maybe,
a memory
how
of
do you
it
know that
when we
that's
sat
not even
outside.
the fact that because Burger King's service is faster and
When's
pronter?
the last time you been to a Burger King?
we
The service ain't that fast. Let me tell you my lasting experience with Burger King. It was in Columbus, Ohio. Mike, you'll be able to relate to this. It was on Hamilton Road. The Burger King that used to be on Hamilton Road. I drive up there. It's about 10 o'clock at night. Sitting in line. I get to the drive-thru menu. Welcome to Burger King. How can I help you? In the most nasty, sarcastic voice ever. I'm ordering a Whopper with cheese, no pickle, no onion, no tomato for me, and a Whopper with cheese, no onion for my wife. You know what they say to me? I'm sorry, we've run out of cheese. Then, a week later, because I'm craving Burger King, because I went there and I wanted it, and now I want to get it. I got to get this craving out my system. The next week I went there. I'm sorry, we ran out of meat.
Oh, I ain't never heard that
next
before.
week, I did this
I ain't never heard
3
that.
weeks
They
in
do
a
that.
row.
How does that happen?
She's
Oh
my
God.
witness. She's my witness. I called her when it happened. I said, babe, you'll never believe this. They ran out of meat. Didn't I say it? Mm-hmm. The next week, I went back one more time. I
supposed to have
sat
it your
in
way
the
at BK.
drive-thru line for 15 minutes.
right.
Somebody lied about that. You can't have it your way if they ain't got no food. The third week, I sat in line for 15 minutes in the drive-thru. I get up, I make my order. I'm surprised they actually got stuff. They got the cheese and the meat. I get to where I'm supposed to pay. And you know what I saw? Now keep in mind, I just ordered, and I got the picture to prove this one. I just ordered. You know what I see on the side? When I pull up to pay, I see a sign on the window that says shift change. We'll be back in a half an hour.
Hey, but you know what, Jesse? You making an argument for BK.
I just ordered my food.
You making an argument for BK because you kept going back there craving it. How many trips you make to Wendy's?
No. Because when you have
when
you have a craving for something,
he kept going back.
You have to get it out of your system.
Right.
You just have to get it out of your. I've had a craving for McDonald's the same way, and I keep going back till I get what I want. When I got a craving for something, because it's rare to have a craving for anything. When I got a craving for something, I got to get it. And no, they weren't so popular that they ran out of food.
Out. That's
called
happened.
bad management.
And
that's called. That's called somebody who's bad at their job.
Everything on Hamilton Road was trash, though. I mean, like seriously,
that
was that location.
We went to the Wendy's. You know what we started doing? We'd have late service and whatnot. I'd be coming back from service, and you know what we'd get? Wendy's. Did you order something?
That order went to the wrong place.
It came here.
Yep.
You know how I say we always do real talk and real stuff happens. She ordered something for our daughter, and she got it sent here, and somebody knocked on my door, and I don't like folks knocking on my door because I don't be known. We don't let folks know where we live. And so I was like, "What the heck?" And I'm hearing this knock. I'm like, "Who is at my door?" And then she was like, "Oh, that's right. They went to the wrong place." Yes, Mike. BK was scandalous. Yes, sir. This one also.
I think you got
Wendy's food
outvoted on
tastes
this
fresher. No, it's a tie vote. Mike counts. Mike said Wendy's.
What did Eddie say?
I don't know, and I'm not scrolling back up to find out. Now, Eddie Jr. said BK, but I'm not going to count Eddie Jr. because he has to go with what his daddy said.
That means Eddie said BK too.
Eddie Jr.'s trying to go rogue. Wendy's
that's what it is.
The place. Wendy's got bars. Yep. Wendy's got bars. Wendy's got everything. Wendy's got good food. And the best argument I can make for Wendy's. You ready for this? Here's the best argument I can make for Wendy's. There's strawberry lemonade.
Yeah.
Tell me what place where BK ain't got no strawberry lemonade at all, let alone one that's better than Wendy's.
Although I will say
McDonald's ain't got no strawberry lemonade at all.
I will say this about Wendy's. They were going back and forth. I think it was like Chick-fil-A or something on Twitter, and they had some good comebacks. I don't know if y'all saw
And they bodied Chick-fil-A too. Yeah, because Wendy's is black. Wendy's had a black mama and a white daddy. That's what happened.
I wouldn't go that far now.
They sent Wendy's off to live with her granddaddy so that the daddy wouldn't get in trouble for bedding a black woman. I'm trying to tell you what to know. Wendy's is black.
Wow.
Wendy's is black, got bars, and she got comebacks. She be clapping back.
Wendy's is the hamburger version of Arby's. That's what Wendy's is.
So disrespectful. In the words of Sharice, the disrespect. You cannot disrespect Wendy's like that. Wendy's. Okay, I'm still waiting. What does Burger King have that's comparable to Wendy's strawberry lemonade? I hear silence. Out.
Cause you
We don't go there for the drinks. We go there for the food.
Tell me. Wait. I'm coming. I'm going down the line. Tell me tell me that Burger King's chicken nuggets are better than Wendy's nuggets.
BK's chicken nuggets is better than Wendy's chicken nuggets, especially them chicken fingers.
Oh, you a lying. The truth ain't in you. You's a lying. The truth ain't in you. Wendy's chicken nuggets are like Chick-fil-A's chicken. Ones. It is delicious and it is real chicken.
Chick-fil-A?
Wendy's chicken McNuggets are wonderful. Wendy's chicken nuggets are wonderful. The classic single that's now called the Dave's Classic is better than the Whopper. I don't see what you're saying. All that happened to it. She tried to show me something.
See what it is, Philanda. It's all that propaganda that Jesse got from Wendy's is why he likes it. They ain't got good food. They got good propaganda. They ain't got good food though.
It ain't propaganda. All I do is I do like Wendy's, and I spit facts. And facts are Wendy's is better. And Wendy's, if you want to sponsor the Real Talk podcast, we'll go on ahead and take it. I was eating McDonald's earlier, but I promise you, I'll be sponsored by Wendy's. And the reason I was eating McDonald's earlier is because this Wendy's over here. No, this Wendy's over here is trash.
See, even you
These
see
get
Wendy's.
no, this Wendy's.
This Wendy's is trash.
This McDonald's is trash too.
That Burger King was
It's trash. Burger King is trash. McDonald's is trash over here, and that Wendy's is trash. This Wendy's over here tastes like somebody has had diarrhea and put it on a bun. But that's because we got people over here who've got no hope in their life, and though this is everything they got, and they hate their life. Wendy's is what it is. And because this is my podcast, and my boy Mike also agrees with me, I'm going to declare myself the winner in this one. Wendy's wins. I don't care what y'all say. Wendy's wins.
It was only y'all two for that. Y'all was the lone people for that one. Everybody else said BK.
Sometimes the minority is the majority. Ask white folks. They the minority folk, but they the majority. When you own your own podcast, you can say that Burger King is better. But right now, we're going to go ahead and say that the Wendy's is better on the Real Talk podcast. Sponsor us, Wendy's. Burger King, you can go on ahead and go to hell. That's how I feel about you. No, every time I get them, the doggone cheese ain't even melted on their Whoppers. Forget Burger King. You was a lie. This is why you went to that little clown garbage mascot y'all got. For the record, Burger King shouldn't be in this conversation anyway because Burger King is not even owned by itself anymore. McDonald's owns Burger King. So you saying Burger King is better is also saying that McDonald's is better because McDonald's owns Burger King.
They also own Chipotle.
But you know what they don't own? Wendy's.
Really?
That's because nobody wants to buy it.
Why would you bring Chipotle in this conversation? No, that's because Wendy's got too much money for them to buy. Wendy's is standing toe-to-toe with McDonald's and saying, I bet you our money is greater. And we don't need to buy nobody else. We just put y'all out of business. Wendy's is the reason that Burger King was able to get bought by McDonald's. Because everywhere you see a Burger King, you see a Wendy's right by it. And Wendy's is putting them out of business. Go on ahead, Wendy's. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close up this episode of the Real Talk Podcast. I want to thank our fantastic guest, Mr. Eric Spade. I appreciate you, sir, for coming on. It's been wonderful. We absolutely will have you as a return guest. I love having you on the podcast. I might even have you on in some interviews when I have some other folk on just to have you on.
I appreciate being on here, Jesse. You and Philanda are welcome me on the show, so I appreciate that. And we got to talk about some pretty serious stuff here that nobody else wants to talk about. So, and some funny things at the end. So I like how you combine all those things into the show to make the serious stuff, and then kind of leave it with the lighthearted attitude. So I like it. I'll stay tuned.
Absolutely appreciate it, sir. And to everyone else, y'all know we love to say, whatever you do, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, just do yourself a favor. Always keep it real. This has been Philanda. I'm Jesse. This is Real Talk Podcast. Thanks for listening.
This is Real Talk. Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk. Real Talk. This is Real Talk. Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk. Real Talk. Real Talk.